Just call and talk to them. Did you chat with anybody yet? Did you join the call?
So wait, so
A video.
they're able to comment before?
Yes, you can register something.
Use it. It's really your process. We're second. Pearl's falling.
Give me a few more minutes, we're about to start on the estimates. Just kidding. No, I'm having a lot of tech.
And then it's just eye catching, and it goes right into your dish.
Alright.
It's more, it's pearls.
Yeah, what do we do?
Check the slides.
And it's
Check the
and then your brain. That's the video. For stills, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just, yeah.
English
Hello.
or Spanish?
Oh, no,
Welcome, yeah, welcome.
And English.
We're running a little behind.
That's the video.
Hi, how are you?
No, you should be able to hear a couple.
You do that with me?
Yeah.
Show off. Showing off. Yeah, show me that.
So they were doing some really, really fun stuff about how you could do it. Super stupid cereal.
Fernando, nice to meet you.
I'm Erin.
Erin, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Is that right? I feel like I should. Yeah, come sit here. I'm like, I should meet people, and then I should. I was getting emails, but then sometimes they're virtual. And I just got back to Miami. Does everyone sell not everybody.
A lot of people are starving, thinking about it. Some of us have been. You know, we all follow that guy over there when we were around. He's a wealth of knowledge. And stuff. He does a little bit of this vibe. Oh, they sell stuff.
Yeah.
They sell stuff.
That's good. I've been doing at home for a while.
Under the terrorism,
And slides is just computers.
So yeah,
So then you need to separate the one.
Is there some where you manufacture?
out in the US.
We have a guy in the group.
You know,
exited.
another one, sprayer?
Manufacturing of products.
How's the temperature, everyone? We're gonna get started, but you're freezing.
The other word for sprayers.
Letting it Fernando out.
Cost really low.
That's what you were doing.
But his 80%.
Yeah, all those are
Something really good. But his price is
basically
so low, and it sells it for so much.
long time ago.
He's a younger cat. That was the good part about being in that space.
And then you manage to have your factory.
I think it was French originally.
All right, we're gonna get started.
Right now.
Oh, okay.
We're running a little behind.
Effective things.
It's not like I haven't been here since 4:30 setting up.
That's so cool. Put it in front of me.
Yeah, well, it's different now. Yeah. This is if you ask a question, that's the microphone's
All
going
right, thank you
on.
everybody for coming out.
Okay.
Familiar faces, we don't want that. Have we met?
No, we haven't. Nice to meet you.
Welcome to Wizards of Ecom. This is our Saturday session, Amazon Seller Meetup. The community's been around having these meetups for 10.5 years. Surreal. Today's topic is going to be, today's topic is going to be
Tom.
try try it now. I jacked the volume up all the way now. It's a very clickbaity one, but I assure you, I'll tell you what it's not. It's going to be the 5 products to sell on Amazon in 2025. Obviously, if I get up here and I mention this weird Alexa powered garlic press and everybody runs out and gets it, it becomes a bad product because everybody's selling it. So instead of doing that, I'm going to tell you about the types of products that sell well in 2025. And I'm not just going to, toss me a cube. I'm not just going to mention,
Hold on.
let's try the other.
One of these, just in case it's that. Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the types of products that you can sell that will allow you to, I think, make more profits and have a lot more product opportunity in 2025. And that way everybody can leave here with a bunch of different product ideas that they can launch. So if you want to press me for an idea of a product to sell, I'm more than happy to share it. Just when I break the product
Mic
down,
check 1 2.
stand between the stream and here, could be half a dozen people leaving to go sell that product, and it then becomes a little saturated. So we'll do that starting at around 2 p.m. when we get into our topic of the week. We're going to start with our beginner hour, which is hopefully some beginners are here. You can ask any beginner questions you want, everything from I don't know what question to ask to all the way to, is it too late to start selling on Amazon? I mean, hopefully not. You could ask me about me, how did I get started? You could ask me what I would do differently. Like what would I do differently if I was starting now? Like those would be some pretty good beginner questions. And I'll do my best to erase things that I know and just kind of base my answers off of what everyone should kind of know now and what we would do. Absent that, rather than just stare awkwardly at each other, I have a cool little product that I stumbled across this week that I'll show. This is not a product that you're going to retire off of, but it's something I found that if you wanted to do, I think about $10,000 a month, which is not bad. If you wanted to do $10,000 a month in a niche product that I think would be very easy to dominate the category, I'll show you that in the beginner hour if we have some time, and I'll also share how I came across it. But it was not opening up a software and using a bunch of filters, I'll tell you that. What else? A few announcements. Obviously the sponsors you see up here, there's no obligation to buy anything. This entire community in these meetup events, they're sales-free zones. You're not going to have me up here pitching you something. There's no go to the back of the room for a course, nothing like that. What we do have is this camera that faces us, that allows people, faces me, not you guys, that allows us to live stream this and allows us to monetize a membership for the recordings of these classes afterwards. That's how we make things work. Also with our sponsors. There's no obligation to work with any of these sponsors. One of our sponsors will actually be here today, which is Chris McCabe, e-commerce Chris. He's helped more people in our community and just throughout this space than anyone else I know in my 15 plus years in. But I can say that this and what we do and having our own space like this and the different things we're able to do would not be possible without our sponsors. That's truly the case. It is not a money grab. I don't get the sponsorship money and buy my wife a nice purse or anything like that. It's going in those empanadas and pastelitos and coffee and water, the overhead here, all that there. So if you're not working with one of them, at least if you see them at an event, go up and say hi, say you saw their name at this event, because we wouldn't be able to do this without them. I'd appreciate it a lot, and I know they would. Even a selfie, if you see them at an event and post it somewhere, tag Wizards of Ecom. We have a podcast that I'd love you guys to listen to, even if it's just a critique. We have one in English, one in Spanish. They're not translations of each other. It's not an AI play. Tom's about to launch a podcast in 10 different languages next week, I'm sure. This is not that. We're not that advanced. We have our English one, Wizards of Ecom, Spanish one, Wizards of Ecom en Español. Nothing too shocking there. And they both do really well. Their sole goal is to interview guests and talk about topics that we think would be very helpful for you here in the community and that maybe are not robust enough of a topic to build a whole Saturday afternoon around. So I'd love if you give it a listen. I'm the host of the Wizards of Ecom Learn English. Raul, who's teaching the class in the front room, and Alexis are the hosts for the one in Spanish. Some new group announcements that are coming up. We have this is our Amazon meetup within Wizards of Ecom. We have a Shopify meetup within Wizards of Ecom that we started towards the end of last year, and it got really complicated. But we've started that back up. We'll have 2 Shopify meetup events every month. They'll be here, and they'll be on Saturdays. You're gonna have to make a choice on those Saturdays, because there's gonna be some overlap. But in that front room, or depending on the size, we can switch. They hosted by Andres, right here, by the way. The first one is April 5th. Yeah, so about a month, well, less than a month. Oh, it's very close. Are you ready? Oh, God. So, April 5th, and we have those happening every month. We're starting them at 12. This one starts at 1. So you jump in one at 12, it'll end around 2:30. When you finish that one, you can jump over here, and this one ends at 3:30. We also have our YouTube meetup, which will be starting back up. That'll be once a month. That's gonna be announced. The next one will be announced this week. So pay attention to those announcements. And in future groups, until we have it programmed as to like what's new, I'll keep announcing it. Some really big news, of which I'll drop here first, and there'll be a lot more to share in the coming week or two, is that Online Seller Cruise is back. So we haven't talked about it for a bit. Had a lot of working behind the scenes, but Online Seller Cruise is definitely back. That's our annual event. We go as a group to the casino on the ship. No. We go on a group trip. It's 7 to 8 days. I think we're gonna do 7 and stay away from 8. 8 was once. And while people complained in the beginning that 8 seemed like a lot, on day 8 everyone hoped it was still going, but we're not gonna do 8. It's 7 days, like Sunday to Sunday. And we have classes every day that we're at sea. Think about like 30 classes on board, workshops, networking obviously, and then all the fun that comes with a ship, and excursions with other people that are on the same mission as you. So it's a really, really good time, unless you get really seasick, and then it can be not so good. But they say they have patches, so that's going to be happening. The exact dates I'm hoping to be announcing this week. The latest next. Normally we would have already announced it 2 months, about 2 months behind. But it looks like it will be very late January 2026 or first week of February 2026. Stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about that. A lot of nods. I see a lot of other people are excited about that. Hesitant? No?
Right, no, that sounds good.
All right. You'll see a lot more announcements of that during the week. All right. Before we get fully into the beginner hour, I'm looking at my notes here if you're wondering what I'm doing, so there's a lot of announcements. I wanted to touch again on last week. We talked about this product that a really, really cool inventor came in. I'll pass it around again just in case anyone wants to see it, but this really cool inventor created, and we're not going to go too much into the product, but I think it's an important lesson as a beginner, because I've seen a lot of beginners lose a lot of money this way, is you have a cool product idea, you invent something that sounds like a guaranteed money maker, right? It's not. Most inventors are broke, right? And the reason for this is, what this is imagine a tub of protein that you do your protein stuff on. You know, when you go in there and you gotta find the scooper, and when you come out, it gets all over the place and you look like Tony Montana, right? But here, you don't have to do with that. So these fit all tubs. You pop it on, turn it upside down, it fills the perfect amount, close it, and then you just dump out. So you never have to deal with the shaker or anything like that. I'll pass it around. But the lesson for this is, how would you search this on Amazon? what would be your best? How would you search for it?
You
Take a
won't.
stab at it, like the best one you can think of.
You won't.
You won't.
Yeah.
But like we said, you'd have to find it connected with something else.
Right. So, one of the, up until recently, this was 100% of the time, you needed to sell a product that had existing search on Amazon for it to work. I've shared endless examples on how
I want this.
launching
Yes,
something,
the dog's gonna last.
while it could be a fantastic product, it could be $1 million business. It just means that it's uniquely unqualified
Scoop it here.
to start its launch on Amazon. That's it. This would be fantastic. TikTok, and YouTube, and ads, showing people awareness, education on how this works. Can you imagine how easy this would be to show how clean the counter looks before and after using this, and some exaggerated bodybuilder with like,
I just said to her, it's like caught in your nails, it's all
yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah. I never had to deal with the nails, but yeah, I can imagine that, yeah. So like, it would be a fairly easy ad to run, and then maybe you did have product in Amazon to use their fulfillment network, or that was stage 2, but you'd need to do something else. The reason I say it used to be 100% the case is TikTok, and TikTok's just gonna be a filler word right now. You can insert Instagram, YouTube, so I don't have to keep saying all of them, I'm just gonna say TikTok. TikTok definitely cracked the seal on this, and that is, you can, although it's definitely not low risk, you can manufacture, you can almost manufacture search or interest. So you can't search for this. And since you can't search for it, you don't know the brand, and you don't know that it's called Lido, right? But with TikTok, you could do enough awareness of this product and list it on TikTok Shop, and have a lot of UGC creators talking about this, where a pretty solid percentage of them, the buyers, us, the consumers, decide, I don't want to buy on TikTok, I don't trust TikTok, I'm just going to go to Amazon. But they have to search for something on Amazon, so what do they start searching for? Lido, that's what they know. Or they try to describe it the best they can. But since that product now gets purchased, this product is now ranking for the keyword that was searched and all the other associated keywords that are on the product detail page, like protein, like a lot of other stuff that'd be very expensive to rank for. So TikTok has kind of introduced a new way to go about doing this. I would consider it risky, but so you need to make sure that the product you want to sell has existing search. This, I'm speaking more from the private label side, but it applies as well to wholesale. I mean, some of you will come up to me and say, I got this brand that they want to sell to me, and they said I could sell their stuff on Amazon. Do you think I should? And I'd be like, how much is it selling for on Amazon right now? And it's not. I think it's a horrible idea. Does it have any search? And you're like, not a bunch. So if it doesn't have a bunch of search, and it's not listed on Amazon, that doesn't sound like a good Amazon wholesale play, right? It kind of cuts you off at the knees as to why the whole wholesale model is a good one, and that is you can just piggyback on the existing velocity and sales of a given product. You with me on this?
Mhm.
All right? Okay. I'm going to pass this product around. This is a product I like. Talked about it a while back, but it's an example of somebody created something on their own take. So they got a portable clothing washer, which they're these big hard shell type things, and he decided he wants something compact that you can take while traveling. And you can pop your clothes in this.
Clothes, how many,
Well, it
I
depends what
mean,
we're talking- not that jacket, no.
no.
That jacket's not going in here. Well, even if it could fit, you wouldn't put that jacket in. I
No,
mean,
I would if I had.
let's imagine
Not your socks.
Tom, well, not one of your socks.
It's for undergarment.
Not one of your socks.
Yeah, like underwear.
Honestly,
There's
that's-
chemical restrictions on this thing and
Bathing
everything.
suits and underwear.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe some.
yeah, so I really like the product. I think if you guys wanted to look at the product listing, later, I can show you how this is one where I think the idea is good for someone that's camping, or that's one of these like living in RVs and out and about, and that's the market they're going for.
Yeah.
They want it to be compact and be able to wash something on the fly. It's the type of person that's hanging a clothesline, maybe from their camper or something like that.
Going on a cruise.
Going on a cruise, absolutely. But if you look at the product detail page, even though he's working on it, the guy's a great guy. It's almost a clinic on what not to do or how to sabotage your listing.
Are there any other people, or that's his patented thing?
No, that's his thing. I mean, it's a saturated market. He invented something there, but there was existing keywords there, which would be what? Portable clothing washer. Compact
Camping
washer, right. So there's existing search there that he can get in front of. So big difference between the two. I just want you to like keep that in mind when you're thinking of your product. Because you talk about your product, you have a variation of this. You have wine glasses, but you really don't want to fight for the word wine glasses.
Which I'm not.
Right.
Right.
Right, but then it comes down to how many people search for, what is your search term? How does somebody search for it? Do you need someone to search bee, or bumblebee, or is it animal? Is it
Oh, you know, I never
designer?
even tried animal.
Right, but what is that one?
No, it's bee gifts, yeah. It's there,
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's something you can give as a prank to somebody that's highly allergic to bees. Yeah.
Wait, hold on, but this is up and selling already?
The first half of that is up.
What do you mean the first half?
Oh, you said up and selling. Right. It's up.
It's up!
It's up. It's up. I think it has 13 reviews. I think I'm 7 of them.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Aw.
No, the guy is just he's like a 5-star human being. He's brilliant.
Yeah, I hope this works. There's a market for this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What you see a lot when somebody creates something is they create something and it costs a lot to create in many cases. And they take it all the way to the finish line with patents and everything else, and then you go to them and you're like, okay, we're gonna turn on some ads here, or create this product detail page for $200, $250. Like, oh, I ain't got that kind of budget. And I'm like, oof. Like it's about to get really bad. So that's very commonplace with inventors. Because they put 100, 150 into the creating of this thing, and the patents, like they went all in. And they just couldn't, they didn't think about the other half when they get the product. All right. As I mentioned earlier, one of our sponsors, Ecom, Chris, is in the back. When we get towards the end of the beginner hour, when we get into the topic of the week, I think we'll put on Chris's theme music. He'll come up. Him and I will probably be up here, right? And we'll do any questions you have. But Chris, by the way, his QR code's back there. Top right, e-commerce Chris. That is not a portrait of him.
It's not my cat either.
It's not his cat, nor is it his cat, nor is it AI, or is it AI? It is AI. Yeah. But Chris has saved more people's bacon in the Amazon space than I know of any single person in this space. More knowledgeable on the subject of that than anybody I know, and just the amount of looks he's seen from different accounts. And I'd love to just get him drunk one day and hear some horror stories. Like, what's the
We
craziest?
do that today.
What's the
I don't actually have
craziest?
plans after this.
What's the craziest thing someone's done and come to you to try to get bailed out of? Like, it has to be bad. I've had people come up to me, they're like, can you put a good word in for me with Chris on, and get my account unsuspended? You know, this business means everything to me. And I'm like, can you just tell me what happened briefly? And I also try to tell people, like, this isn't a $50 drill, so like, I don't want to send that. And he's like, I got suspended again for selling counterfeit items. And I said, again? Like, how? This is the third time. And apparently he moved from Zumba to some Disney product and then something else. And I was like, man, I don't think Chris is going to be able to help you here. Like, you're lucky you're not arrested, you know? But that would be a cool thing to do. Ramon, nice of you to join us. This is not your Saturday either. It is? Okay. Thank you, Amaris, for letting Ramon come. Yeah, with that, I think I covered some of the announcements. Oh, one more thing about, one more little announcement aside that I think is relevant to the beginner hour, and that has to do with community. A lot of people roll their eyes when I talk about community, so anytime I can give like and I'm talking about you creating a community for your brand, if possible. A lot of times if you launch a product already, you haven't in the past, sometimes after the fact, figuring out what the community can be on that can be a little challenging. But I recently, that's my jam. Like, I really don't want to start a brand unless I can build a community with it. But I recently started a meetup that has nothing to do with business. It's just purely for fun, which is very weird for me. And I started one on Dungeons and Dragons. And we've had 2 sessions and they've been amazing. You gotta see Andres dressed up as a barbarian on a Thursday evening. Or is it a monk? Is it a monk? Pal. So it's a blast. This is not a pitch for you to come. If it's not your thing or you don't know what it is, don't even worry about it. But what I am gonna say is the group's growing rapidly. And I just couldn't help it, like when I needed to go out and buy some dice and these little maps and all this other stuff, and I'm looking at the prices of them. Last week I mentioned how I just couldn't help myself and I jumped over to Alibaba and looked at what do dice cost? Like, why am I paying $25 for these blue dice that look like somebody got a paintbrush and red blood on them, and they're paying $25 for them. And I'm like, this looks like some margin. There's 800 bought in the last month. So I thought I was going to be able to just completely avoid it, but I found myself this next week where I'm going to DM a game. And I was like, well, I need to go buy my own map now because I'm going to be in a separate group, and I need to buy some extra dice and some figurines. So when you're playing, there's a map, and you put where you're at on the map. And when I hit the figurines, I was just like, you got to be kidding me! Like, this is a 3D printer exercise.
The painting is not the why am I so expensive?
Oh no, but they sell them unpainted, so some masochist can paint them. Right? And I looked at them and I'm just like, well, at first I thought it was a regular 3D printer. Fernando told me it's not a regular 3D printer that does it, but it's still, if you were looking at this as a business, I reached out, I DM'd a few of the people that are in our D&D WhatsApp group, and I just asked it one-on-one, and I was like, hey, look, we've shared enough in the D&D game and you know I'm a bit of a workaholic. I just have an itch that I need to scratch. If I launched a brand of dice, would you buy my dice during launch? They 100% said yes. And this is 2 events in. The amount of sales you would need to be #1 bestseller in the dice category is next to nothing. So 2 events in, less than 50 people, because that's another one in the community, it's going to get so big, and I need it to get so big before I can do something. I would say by our 6th meetup, I can launch products on the back of that meetup. That's geared towards you.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm just saying it's pointed towards you, Ramon. It's very, very doable. Don't look past it. If you are, you're forever going to be a slave to Amazon advertising costs. So I recommend giving it a shot. If you ever want to pick somebody's brain about community, reach out. I love talking about it. Andres himself has created a massive community, so I'd reach out to him. Don't ask Ramon. Or Tom has created a community now of 1,000 people, so congrats to Tom. All right, beginner hour, or beginner 20 minutes. What question? No, we've been at it for 40 minutes, you're late. Any questions anybody has about selling? Anybody not started selling on Amazon yet? Okay.
Technically, yeah.
Okay, you're deep into the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody here's selling, and nobody has questions. So, shipping, you're loving the direction that's going, your ad costs, your pay-per-click, your CPCs keep getting lower. You love that there's less competition nowadays than ever before. You love how lenient Amazon's been in helping you stay afloat. And
I have a question.
Sure,
Oh,
let's do
is this?
it works.
Okay, I was going to ask you this, Lily. So, a UPC is for Universal and an FNSKU is just for Amazon. So the UPC that I want, because I want to perhaps sell off of Amazon, is that the same code I got from my GS1 that's already on my box?
Yes.
So I don't need anything else, just that one?
No, that's it.
So why is my supplier asking me about a UPC code if it's already on my box that she's printing?
I would get it. It's weird that she would be.
She's
But-
like, do I need a UPC? I'm like, well, I'm saying to myself, it's on there. And then she's like, do I need it on the master carton? No, right?
Oh, she's asking if you want to put a UPC code on the exterior of your master box.
Right, no,
I never
right?
have.
No,
But
I didn't think
You should
so.
put something on the exterior of your
What
master
goes
box.
on the exterior then?
I would say an identical, well, you only got one type of product coming,
Right,
but I've had 100 different SKUs coming before, and they were all in similar sized boxes, and I didn't.
you're
I
saying
needed-
in one, on one pallet, in one,
No, you're gonna have multiple
No.
boxes on one pallet, and each one of those boxes is
Could
called
be
a
a-
master box.
right,
And so if you have different colors, you can put that master box and make sure that your logo is stamped on the outside with your color in the top left or top right. So if it's red, green, black, pink, or purple, you put that in your master box. So you can
box
see-
dimensions? You want to put the weight, the dimensions of the box, shipping mark, which is what Tom mentioned is the logo, and that's, I mean.
say that one more time, which goes on
They
the,
call it a shipping mark.
okay.
They should know that, though.
Listen, yes, but I don't, so let me, this is like, once I go through this once, I'll know.
Yeah, that's.
But what goes, so I only have one thing, one variation, what's going on my master card?
This is more of just setting yourself up right.
Well, right, which I'd like to try to do.
Yeah, so I would just get a Google sheet and put master box, a tab for master box, and put logo, create a SKU, maybe logo SKU, weight, dimensions, the specifications of the master box itself.
Mm-hmm.
Try
Could
to
put how many units are inside the master box if you want it, like how many actually fit.
What's your thought about putting on the, so I've done this where I got with Afalabi and put the name of the HTS code that it's imported in. So if it's
But I've never done it.
wine glasses, put wine glass on there, or if it's glass and it has a lower import code, put that lower import code name on the outside the box.
So there's really no like right answer. It's like, what do you kind of want to put on that master carton?
What
Right?
do we have?
Yeah, I'm sure there's certain types of products that may require different things like live animals. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've not dealt with any that require anything beyond what we're talking about now. When you do get into size, you get into variations.
That's
It would be a
different.
good idea to add the variations there. If you decide you want to add a bee and a different color bee, or you decided to do elephants,
Right,
or
right,
like
right.
anything like that, like put that.
It's basically so your warehouse understands what the product is.
Right,
So
right.
a SKU you need to have, is it gonna be an oversized box, is it going to be a 20-pound box? You know, that type of information so that they know how to categorize your boxes.
Also, depending on how they're going to ship, how you choose to have the product shipped over, they may consolidate your boxes, that you might not be taking the whole container. They might be consolidating it with other people's products in a single container.
Right.
That's in my space, and when it gets over here, it needs to be deconsolidated. They're going to go off your shipping mark that's on the box as far as like how many units and this one's that person, so you don't have any delays.
So, okay.
But they should know this, like.
Right.
Yeah. If anything, I would just say, hey, can you send me a picture of an example master box that was recently printed, and let me see that.
Okay, and then the other thing is for you doing my listing, I have to tell them, no, it's not an FN I'm using a UPC.
Okay, so I feel like this is a different question.
It is,
and this
yeah.
Right, and this gets debatable, like, so me personally, and what I'm about to say, I think would fall into like old Amazon, caveman, paranoid, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
That's normal for you.
That's normal for me.
but that's
I'm
the
a bit
good,
of
that's
like
a good
an
way to be.
I think so, unlike how Ramon is. So what I do is I have the UPC, first of all, it's a GS1 UPC, and it is printed on my packaging.
Right, that's,
I then, and this is where it gets like, what? I will then get the FN SKU, and I will, since it needs to cover it, I will cover my own UPC on the box as if it's labeled. That's an extra step. My reason for that, my one main reason, there used to be a bunch, but my main reason now is that in the event that I have hijackers on my listing showing up, because it happens, being able to point to that is my GS1 underneath, and the other one is not using my GS1 barcode, proves that this is my product. It would just be one point of argument. Maybe Chris can say how like strong that point is, but if they do use my UPC, then I feel like I have some IP that I could attack them with. That's just my paranoid
And you
thought.
do that with every product?
I do that with every single one of my products.
And that would work, like if you're actually hijacked, you know, because it happened to us last summer, and they would just come back. We had account managers being like, Amazon's a platform, so this is how Amazon's designed. Like we own the trademark, like all the things, and that was kind of what they kept coming back with. So would that actually work?
Okay, so I'll defer this like ultimately to Chris to see what Chris says on it, but this is what we do now. That alone has never worked for me. What we do now, and I learned this on Online Seller Cruise, one of our early, remember Kitty a long time ago, and what we do now is we do hidden flaps and holograms.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and it costs nothing to do at the manufacturing level, and it's basically, think of a stamp that's put in the inside of your packaging that is visible with a black light. And what we use it on, or a hidden flap that has something similar underneath, what we use it on is that in the event that somebody is doing this, we do a test buy, and we need to point to show like, hey, this is not my product, this is where it's different, like this is the issue. If they're completely identical to each other, it makes it more difficult. But if I can clearly show something is different, I usually show, you know, that we have the hologram on the inside
And
of
that's
ours,
with-
this one doesn't. That has worked for me.
Yeah, because I'm curious. It's helpful to hear this because it's like, so when it happened to us, they were drop shipping from China, and they were just fake tracking numbers. So we were waiting for like a week and a half for a
Right, and
test
you
buy
can't
that
get
never
the test
showed.
buy because they're merchant
So
fulfilled
it's like,
from China.
do you feel like the hijacking that you're hearing about now, there's more, like you can actually get a test buy, or is it more kind of like,
If they're doing that type of test buy, like that version of test buy, then no. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if they're doing that version of hijacking, no, that's
Yeah.
just really bad.
it was just eventually, because they basically took products that, it was quite sophisticated, like all these like BS companies, you know, with a really long name based in China, then they were choosing products that were $55 and above, but not all of our products, like two of ours did. And so then they kept getting one-star feedback. It never arrived, and then they were getting it removed completely. So it lasted for like a month. It was like, I think they're getting smarter. I don't know, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think on the other side of things in China, there's a black hat version of Chris that does the reverse. He's like a
Oh, yeah.
Sith, or he's a Jedi. And there's
No,
like some-
totally. That's some of the software that's out there. It's like, it's so tempting, but I'm like, don't do it,
No,
don't do
I
it.
wouldn't get into any of those softwares
Yeah.
that do black hat stuff.
No,
It's just not
I
worth
wouldn't.
it.
But
Yeah.
just knowing that they exist is like, oh god.
Knowing
So
they
that's like-
exist makes for really good bar talk.
Yeah, absolutely. But I understand, like, so having that hologram in the more like traditional, if you have higher end
Holograms are the
products,
easiest
that's a
ones
great
that work
idea.
for me.
I hadn't heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hidden flaps, you could. The same person said another one that I was like dying to get a product where this made sense, but apparently you can put a chip
Oh.
inside.
Like
the
an
box.
NFC chip.
Next time, more or less.
You can.
I've heard people say that they've even done.
I've
Yeah.
never actually done that, but I was
Yeah.
like, man, first chance I get, I'm gonna do something like that.
It was the same thing, like I've heard, like everyone's
Do I need to
talking
add
about it, but do you know anyone that's actually, the person that said they were doing it, I saw their products last week and I put my phone near it, you know, because they said it would, and I was like,
And then I immediately try to move into transparency. Not
Do you
to
feel
like
like-
manipulate who can sell my stuff, but rather,
Yeah.
this is my brand, I am controlling the inventory, I'm putting the labels on here at the manufacturing level, and I don't want to deal with this ever again, and I'm willing to pay this tiny bit more per product and never have to deal with that nightmare you just described.
yeah.
Yeah. Chris, you were trying to chime in on something?
Well,
Can somebody throw on the mic?
do you want me to wait 5 or 10 minutes?
You're saying hijacker, you mean potential resellers. I don't use the term hijacker that way.
Yeah. Fair.
Somebody started putting that term out. I think we talked about that last time I was here.
I think it's a private label seller if somebody gets, you're right, it's technically not.
Hijacking for me, like how I learned the term at Amazon was somebody takes over your detail page, changes the image to something else, changes the text, the bullets to something else. Like that's how they see hijacking. So a lot of people complaining to Amazon about hijackers, they might guess what you're talking about, but that's not the proper use of the term for them. They don't, you either have a reseller who's selling legitimate product, or you have somebody who's counterfeiting your product, or there's a materially different product. They don't get into, you don't think they're authorized to sell your stuff. They don't enforce exclusivity. That's why they need the test buy. The test buy proves that they're not reselling your stuff. They're selling something other than your stuff and pretending that it's your stuff. That's what they care about.
There's different places in health for each of those.
I mean, if they keep canceling the orders, then you can do something about that.
What is the, I'll wait for you to comment.
I mean, it's a longer answer, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna ask you that when you jump up here too. That is something I'd like to know. See what you started, Ken?
Well, it's good that we know.
Yeah, no, I know, this is good. This is
And you
good.
know what's even better, if I forget something, I can go back on the video.
Yep, absolutely.
Can I ask my next question?
100%, unless somebody else.
Does anyone else want to ask? No, I'm really.
Do you want this thing back?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. When I talk to SKU Drop on Tuesday, what do I need to know for him? What's he gonna ask me?
I think, first of all, my fingers are crossed that the call goes amazing, because I recommended that to Tom, and I called Tom on a day where he didn't have a lot of patience. My 2 cents, Tom has a different version.
That was Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, that's.
Lisa, the one that doesn't fit.
No. This is what happens. So a company might be set up, Chris is actually excellent at this, but a company's set up to kind of engage with people a certain way. And they set up everything to make sure nothing goes between the cracks.
Got it.
Usually that system does not involve a direct email introduction. Right? It's usually somebody goes to the site, they fill in a form, they create a free account, it's like all that stuff. So something with Chris, especially if it's somebody here that I know, I'll just be like, tell me your best email and I'll make an email introduction. Chris is really good at like, getting that instantly. That's not SKU Drop's best way to engage. So the person I connected you with is a great guy. He's in sales. So the best way to engage with them, but I also know you, so I'm like, I want to put 2 people together.
Oh, yeah, I'm
one
fine with
place.
that, yeah.
Right. So I would treat that call as a, tell me, here's my situation, tell me about your company, what do you recommend is the best way for me just to get started? And what I think he's gonna do is he's gonna send you to a page for you to fill out an account and go through their regular onboarding process. But I always try to, and sometimes it causes an issue, like it did with Lisa. I try to do like an extra touch and hope there's some like white glove, even though sometimes it doesn't come with a discount, you know what I mean? I try to facilitate that. So if you notice anything in that call, my advice would be, if you notice anything in that call that's like, I feel like I wasn't white gloved, or like, just go check out their site, because I mean, a lot of people are using them, they've been great.
Yeah.
I forget why you wanted to use SKU Drop. Like, how did that come up with you and I? With SKU Drop?
I think it was because they do like smaller, like,
Yeah, you want to drip inventory over.
How small? SPD or LTL? By the carton or by the pallet?
I don't even know yet.
Yeah, I don't remember the conversation when we were talking about that.
I don't know, I'd have to go back and look. I don't have like,
I can't recall the context of when we brought it up. As a matter of fact, when you asked me for the intro, I was trying to recall like what was it so that I can add it in the email. I couldn't, but either way, they're a good company
yeah.
to work with. I find the best way to work with them is if you have a steady stream of products being made and you don't want to, like say you have 4,000 units being made. When they finish the 4,000th unit, you've probably had 2,000 units ready to ship for quite some time. And they might have already been able to arrive over here on the States, and instead you're waiting. So it allows you to piggyback on
Yeah.
on their shipping. Also, if you want to be flexible in inserting different like types of insert cards, or maybe you push the limits too hard on some like review solicitation strategy, and you're like, oh, Amazon has now said this is no good. Let me pull that out and tweak it with something else. Like, they're very flexible. With that, their storage I find to be very cheap. So that's, have it as a tool in your toolbox.
Okay.
And if it fits, do
The
it.
trick is knowing your numbers and knowing when to ship, because it's a long shipping process.
It's a very long shipping process now.
I had a question.
Oh, sure.
So obviously things are always changing, not only within Amazon, but just geopolitically. And I've made some bad mistakes not looking at things. So someone with your amount of experience, what do you think for the next like year and a half year? we should be looking out as far as when we're putting together supply chains. Like there's some people that are been like going really hard on the emphasis of near sourcing versus, I had a, like, cause I'm starting a new brand based off some like really difficult situations we've had with some of our Chinese supply chain. And so I've been almost like, you get blind spots. So I'd like to hopefully open my eyes a little bit that I was like, no matter what, this new brand, everything has to be made in America, everything, And I asked someone thinking, oh, they're just going to validate what I said. And they're like, no, you need to still look at the numbers, that kind of stuff, to try to have to reduce the most amount of risk. Do you think I'm paranoid, or what do you think about the whole thing? I'd just love to hear.
I operate like a, say hi. I operate, I think, at a higher degree of paranoia, and I guess
No, but
most people
okay.
just period.
I'm on the same page.
Yeah, so I don't think a healthy degree of paranoia is a bad thing. I do agree with one statement they said, no matter where you're sourcing from, you gotta know your numbers.
Yeah.
That's true. And to give you a very direct answer, like I'm looking at this, ad costs, and I'm gonna try to explain how I'm getting here. Ad costs are gonna continue to go up. Like that's gonna happen. Shipping costs I don't see coming down anytime soon in a meaningful way. As you so amazingly described with the geopolitical situation, I think it's going to get better, but not in the immediate future,
Fair.
right? If you had a brand, you said new brand, which is great, but if you had a brand and that brand was, say, Ramon's in the gaming space, maybe the US is not an option, right?
Yeah.
So then it would be like, let's just figure
Yeah,
out
yeah,
a
yeah.
way to deal with what's there. Since you can be product agnostic in what you pick for this new brand, then I would 100% say the US
Yeah.
to address rising ad costs going up and I just mentioned community earlier and everything like that. I recommend a product that is a replenishable or has some kind of subscribe and save element to it. That's going to open the doors for you on a Shopify and stuff like that, because even though ad costs are going up, your acquisition costs are going to go up, but your lifetime value opportunity for the customer is also going to really go up, and that's a win. So replenishable products, subscribe and save stuff, consumables, that's a really sweet spot in the US. And more specifically, we go together as a group to a conference called PLMA every year in November.
What is that?
Chicago, it's called Private Label Manufacturers Association. And it's basically, how many vendors were there last time? Is it 2,000?
1,400.
1,400 vendors there. These are people that manufacture, for the most part, they manufacture food products,
Oh, wow.
and they have their own brands, but when they're not running their brands, they also want to, and there's other spins on this, they want to private label them for other people. So your brand, your product, they have all their FDA stuff, they have everything. Their prices are very competitive, I would say low. And their MOQs, at the end of the day, are also very low. Don't get too freaked out if you look at something and it says 10,000 pounds and think 10,000 units. You might be selling 5-pound bags, so
Okay, got
it's
it,
not.
yeah.
I'd highly recommend that.
Is it just food, or is it like any kind of supplements or consumables, or is it definitely like a food
No,
conference?
it's 99% food.
Okay, no, it's good to know.
Yeah, I'll show you an example.
I think if you're product agnostic, definitely go that route. But if you already have a brand and you're thinking about, hedging the China problems that we have right now, it really depends on the material that you're going to be using. If you're thinking, if your products are cloth or fabric of some sort, you can get out of China and hedge that tariff problem that we have. Cambodia, Vietnam are good places to consider manufacturing. But if you're thinking injection molding plastics, or you're thinking, multi-component products such as things that come with electronics and plastics and stuff, it can be very hard to get out of China for
Yeah.
the foreseeable future.
Like I was hitting a wall with, because I've started the brand, and the next product I wanted to do, it's a consumable, it's that, but like I really want it in a squeezy silicone but then so then I looked at everything in America. I was like, ChatGPT, I don't know. I was like, I have to get it from China. So then I'm back to like the Chinese supply chain. So we have a great silicone supplier in China. So it's like kind of coming into the packaging type.
I'm finding a lot more, I mean, a lot of the stuff we buy, the packaging is in China, but if something drastic was to happen with the packaging, there are packaging options here, they're just a bit more expensive.
Or maybe they're harder to find, but it's more of like that's almost like an insurance against, a container shortage or some tariffs.
What's the worst case scenario? Like there's no more plastic bags. We're gonna move into tins or something else. Like everything will just shift.
Yeah, to
I don't think
something
we can
else.
predict like we could just have a plan to be able to pivot and what this would look like in different packaging. But at some point, I feel it starts going into unhealthy paranoia. And it's like, but there is no packaging. There's no packaging anywhere for anything. And it's like, wow, is there tanks in the street too? And like, what's your war?
So
I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. It's about 20–25% more expensive for a lot of the packaging in the US. The MOQs might be a little higher, but that's doable.
Since we're talking about packaging, have you found cardboard that you can source in the United States for packaging for like the actual box of your product?
The place that I like, and it's been a few years since I've needed to go that route for it, but is Riverside. I remember a long time ago I recommended them to you.
Yeah, but I haven't looked at them for a while.
Riverside.
Well, what do you mean by so packaging with boxes is pretty easy. Any print shop for the most part will have hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will have a router. They'll paint your cardboard, whatever it is, and that router will actually make indentations and cuts so you fold up and make a box.
So in your opinion, going to print shops can work at scale and not that much more expensive than China?
Hold on, I didn't say that much more expensive than China. You just have to factor in. We're now going to be bringing everything in from China at 25% more, right? So that's where the playing field is now. You're going to have to pay for shipping. Cardboard, last I checked, takes up a lot of space.
Right.
And then your MOQs are going to be a lot higher from China than they will be from somebody here in the US. So maybe look at a Pack Expo. There's a couple of different shows for Pack Expo, but just go into the suppliers or who's going to be exhibiting there and look for those box manufacturers. But there are box manufacturers that basically take that, instead of that router and cutting, they just kind of roll and indent that cardboard. Ever seen those cardboard boxes that you fold and kind of assemble together? That's how they're going to present it to you.
And
That's how you're gonna get from
100%
China
they
too.
exist, right? I just don't know enough, which is what I'm asking. Are we going to be able to find packaging suppliers at scale in the United States that may be more expensive, but still, approachable?
Not to be facetious, but where do you think Amazon gets its boxes? It's not ordering from China.
Yeah, it's doable. We'll group buy. I mean, at that stage, I mean, it's doable. I mean, there's shows dedicated to that, to people in the U.S. doing it. Riverside Paper Co., which I imagine, that's just one that I know. And when I discovered them to do it, I didn't know a fraction of what I know now. So I don't know that they're the best. But yeah, it's definitely doable. Real quick, some of you have seen this, but I guess kind of put a bow on the question, is I still haven't got the latest catalog up, but I'm just going to add the 2023 PLMA catalog into ChatGPT. Any volunteers to scan the 2024 catalog?
Aren't you going to use that other one, Casio or whatever it was called, ACO?
Oh, ACO.
That would be a better one to source product from.
Yeah.
But it's China, but it's not
This
US.
is going to take like a minute to load this catalog. It's a massive catalog, and then we're just going to be able to have a conversation with ChatGPT on that catalog. So like, this part's becoming hard because like everybody tells me their products and what they're looking for, and then you guys will pick me up if I put your product in here as an example. So I'm going to put just be on my back.
So nice of you to be kind to ChatGPT by saying please.
Yeah, I say please to Alexa.
Hey, listen, yeah, you never know when they're gonna come back.
You know, it's going to be a concern because if like kids
in the
are
US.
talking to AI and Alexa, and you want to say please, but they're engage, I feel like if they're engaging with these devices so much, and if they don't show manners to it, they're not gonna show manners, like it's gonna get bad.
Yeah, I'm teaching my kids to say please and thank you to Alexa, for sure.
You can go, they'll do everything. But, they, like, if you look at some of the case studies, interesting to read, they can do anything.
Phone number,
Cheap, expensive,
name,
and, I'm waiting for quote on my box, but that's who it is.
and watch.
You know,
This will publicly humiliate me and say, this is not how this works. But it'll take like a minute and it's gonna spit it out. I mean, it's about as easy as it gets. To anytime now. Anyhow, we can keep talking. All right, I want to show.
There you go.
There we go. There it is. That's good. Other stuff that they do. I think that's pretty darn neat. And a product that I don't want to go, we don't have a lot of time to go into it. Maybe we just go into it another time, but I'll show it to everybody. And maybe you just do your own research between now and next week. So, how I discovered Ikebana is a long time ago. It feels like forever, like another lifetime ago. Again, this is not something you're going to retire off of if you need your business to be like 7-figure, 8-figure, whatever. But I found enough here to make over 10,000 profit a month. It wouldn't take that much to start this, but a long time ago, I wanted to get into bonsai for calming and soothing reasons. And then I met somebody who said, my goal by the end of 2025 is to launch 100 brands. So I contributed that to Tom, and that became number 8. Yeah? No. And then Tom ran away with it, obviously. It has dominated the bonsai niche, so I can't get into that, because you see, if I get into a hobby, I want to turn it into a business. And that's a safe one, because I wouldn't want to compete with Tom. But then similar vein, I was just saying, what else is something calm that I can just like poke around at? I like gardening, I like fish tanks. And I found this thing that I'd never heard of. I literally put it in, I was like, something similar to, similar but different enough from bonsai. And I came up with this thing. Anyone heard of it? No? But it's,
what is it called?
Ikebana, Ikebana.
Ikebana.
And what it is if I had to contrast it to bonsai, it seems like bonsai is the forming of the plant itself. This is just flowers. And you get these stands. Watch, let me have a better video down here. It's loading. Too many but one of the things that caught my attention as it possibly being a weird niche that no one thinks about, that would be easy to compete in, is when I searched for pretty much its root keyword, I got no ads. So almost nobody was running ads on this thing. Then, I mean, I did a lot of other stuff, but just for the purposes of illustrating it here, letting the search bar populate, we get to see there's a lot of other things that can be added to this, including a kit. Ikebana bases. Here, here's the thing I wanted to show you. By the way, I'm not doing it as a habit. I don't really feel like messing with flowers, but I thought it would be. Anyhow, I can't find.
I don't think you have enough extensions in your Chrome browser, bro.
Way too many extensions. Anyhow, you get this thing that looks like a comb, and you click them together, and you put your flowers, and it looks like an orchid, and you arrange the flowers into this little stand, and then this little comb-looking stand thing, you wedge a bunch of them inside this pot, and then this outside rim right here is this black band that allows it to not shift in the pot. And then depending on how many flowers and how it expands, depends on the types of bands that you need. Pretty much half the products here are replenishables. Meaning in this case, somebody needs to buy more than one. There's a whole bunch of little tools and stuff for tweaking your plants that are very unique to this one.
That's China play though, right?
Sorry?
That's China.
Yeah, some of these definitely, well, China-like. I mean, you could definitely get this from India. You'd be able to find something like this in Mexico. It's a ceramic. India. There's no reason to not consider China. I mean, China's still, for most of the products that a lot of you want to sell, like China's still the top player when it comes to 25% tariffs or not. If you have a specific category you want to be in and you want the products there, you probably have to go to China. And her question, and what I try to tell people when they're first starting, is if you can kind of like write your own story here and have your own brand and make it as less complicated as possible, why not do that? Why not just?
Why not US?
Yeah, why not US? Like, why not anywhere that doesn't have a 25% tariff and who knows, 35% next week?
Right, does anyone else ask a question? Because I had another one.
No, let's do it. Let's do it, and then we'll go into the Q&A in a second.
Oh, no, you just finished it.
No, that was it.
This might be like a ubiquitous question for most of us because we'll be engaging with China either at the start or have longer relationships. I haven't read the book Poorly Made in China, and I don't know if anyone has, but
I've read it.
You have? Okay, that's what I figured. It was, you know Steve Simonson?
Yeah.
He told me to read that, and I was like, if he tells me to read it, I'm going to read it. But
Yeah.
because I'm in a bit of a situation too where I've never been to China, and I've heard a lot that you need to go face to face to get those good deals. I have a brand that we're not growing as much anymore, that we've been working with the same factory for 8 years, and we don't have a manufacturing agreement about quality anymore. And it's kind of like, how do you, like, do you suggest to people now, like from the beginning, going with like a contract that includes inspection and level of detail, for one, and then how do you negotiate these things if you can't go to China? Everyone's like, you need to get terms, you need to do this, and I believe it's possible, but like kind of going back to the same supplier versus from the beginning, and like what's like a non-negotiable? Because it's like right now, it's like they changed the glue, and now things are starting to come apart, and they didn't tell us, and he said, and when you read the book, you'll realize that factories are always trying to cut costs. Like, how do you hold them accountable? Like, are there things you should do from the beginning when you're starting, and what can someone do when you're already in the relationship, when they seem a bit like, oh, we didn't change it because of that, and I was like, I have it in my hand, you changed it, So that was a really long-winded question. Do you know what I meant?
That's a great question. So we do not have to go to China to have a very profitable, successful private label. You don't have to go to China to get better terms.
Okay.
But there is something to be said about the relationship you have with somebody, or to start with somebody when you meet face to face versus online, right? When you do go to the factory, even though you're more than likely working with one of the reps, you're not going to sit down and have tea and everything, KTV, which is their karaoke, and like you're not going to do all that with the rep. The rep might be there, but you're not going to be there with the owners. So I don't know if this is a good example, but like Amazon has a rule that you can't incentivize a product review. That's a good rule, but one of the things was you can't give someone a free product and then get a review on it because I gave you a free product, you're human, you're now going to be more incentivized, or you might feel obligated to leave a more positive review, maybe a 5-star. And I think that's true. So if you believe that, then meeting with your factory has to have some upsides. If you're ordering the bare minimum MOQ from a factory for several rounds, or for years, which some people do, I don't think going to the factory and developing the relationship is going to really have a big impact. You're you're ordering, you've barely made the minimum cut for them to even qualify to work with them. You're not the top priority for them. So, yeah, I am very pro going to go visit, but I'm more like a people person. I'm very pro going to go visit your factory. Now, the other part of your question has to do with quality control. And
Yeah.
whether you go to visit your factory or not, you are paying for an agreed upon level of quality.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to enforce it. You're right in that it's much easier to do when you start that way. And again, back to just people. You kind of train people how to treat you, what's acceptable. That's I would find that to be even more the case in China. If you're working with someone for a while and now you want to impose a lot of new, if this, then that, then they're gonna be like, why should I? Like, I haven't had to do that. What I do to make sure that's not an issue, and usually I get a few people rolling their eyes at me at this, is first of all, tie pay to performance so that you agree, and I'm not gonna push them on this, just whatever they wanna do in the beginning, that's fine. But if it's gonna be 30 days, 60 days for something to get done, let's just clarify these working days, these calendar days, what holidays are we talking about, us or the 50 bazillion more that you have over there? Let's get that down pat. Now, if you are not done by that day, then I would say something like, I would start off and say like, then 6% off the remaining balance of the order. They're never gonna agree to that, right? They're probably gonna fall somewhere at like 2%. And each of these things that I'm gonna share, if you try to drop it all on them at once, they're just gonna like freak out. So don't send them a legal doc, just have a conversation back and forth on WeChat. And they're gonna fall somewhere at 2%. But you know what? You're never gonna get that 2% because they will never be late. Once you put that in place, it's not gonna happen. If for some reason something happened and they were like 2-3 days late, I just want them to prioritize me in this. I'm not out to turn this into a profit source, but they're not gonna be late. So that's one. Second one is something called a golden sample, right? And pretty much all inspection companies do this, but B-Trust, BD Inspection, when you go get your samples of a product, and you can do this after the fact, but if you're just starting, you hire the inspection company to get the samples. And they're gonna go in and they're gonna get at least 3 samples. One of them they're gonna ship to you. One of them, I like to say that they smash together and look at the insides and how it works, but they're really just writing down like the quality of this, how much of this was used, like all that jazz, that's your product. And the other one they keep, so that in subsequent inspections, especially pre-shipment inspections, they now have a product that they can compare, a golden sample, to show what you're approving. So if this other company has decided to change a material type on that product, they're gonna be able to catch that and point it out. They failed the inspection, this is why, and they need to address it. Again, once that's in place, the factories are not going to do that anymore because they know what's coming. So it's not a profit source. You're just keeping them, you're just, again, getting them to prioritize you and like take me a little seriously. The other thing the golden sample allows, but that I like to do separately, and this, you're not asking for trade secrets. They don't think you're gonna shortcut them, but everything in China runs off of invoices, like proving who got what and what got paid and where all this money goes around. You wanna get the invoices for who the suppliers are of the raw material types that makes your product. Everyone gives you that. Nobody asks, but all the factories give you that. And the reason for that is, they are allowed, if you agree, it's not a real thing, it's a surgical grade stainless steel. They could go work with another supplier for surgical grade stainless steel. But because there was a change, it lets you know, so you can approve it or get another sample, and it lets the inspection company know that, hey, something's changed here, what's going on. A big red flag would be the new surgical grade stainless steel company is charging 70% less. Well, I bet the quality of that steel is a lot different too. So
So each PO, we would specify that we want the full
you would
invoices.
specify all this up front,
Okay,
and then with each order, you're attaching it as per the agreement.
because that's a great idea. The one that we have the most problem with is, it's like a container that they order, and before they were really like, oh, we'll talk about it, like the container's the biggest issue. So that's an amazing idea too. Because they have been changing things, like I'm not crazy,
Yeah.
but it's
Things
just,
change, but
yeah,
if they change something, you no longer have a sample that you agreed on. The other one would be inspections. So you let them know that for every single order, you're gonna do a random and pre-shipment inspection. The random's optional, but the random lets them know that within 24 hours notice, during a workday, they have to allow your third-party inspection company that you've already agreed you work with, say V Trust or BD Inspection, to come in and do an inspection. If not, a X percentage off, same thing, X percentage off the remaining balance of the order. They will always let them in. Pre-shipment inspection. In the event of a failed pre-shipment inspection, you will have a meeting with them within 48 hours, and subsequent pre-shipment inspections will be paid for by them. What's gonna happen is they're gonna say, no, I'm not paying for it, but it can come off the remaining balance. I'm okay with that. So, but you get that agreed to, that's reasonable to get done. And then just have a section in there about terminology, like as it gets up. I'm not there to be, I also look at how you can reward them, which is the other half of all this, and that is, tie pay to performance, great. Well, what happens if they're 10 days early? Are you willing to pay a percentage more? So like, it gives you room to play with the factor, but I think if you do that, you won't have any issues. It does become significantly harder to do once you've been working with the factory for a while. Don't approach this legal, don't do all the topics at once. Have one, it may take you a month of back and forth, and then go on to the next one. If you try to drop it all up front, after you've been working with them, they're gonna freak out. If you try to drop it all up front in the beginning, what's gonna happen? Oh,
On your phone.
oh yeah, I was no longer sharing anything on the screen. Well, so if you're, what was I gonna say?
If you say this all up front.
Right, if you say this all up front, what they're gonna do, they're gonna bake it into their price. So they're gonna find out what all these percentages are and say, yeah, 6%, 6%, 6%, and then they're just gonna jack up their price. So you wanna get the price, get the sample, and then start hammering away at these different things, so that you actually have a better price. Yeah.
It's just Alibaba.com.
You want me to go to Alibaba.com?
No, that's what's showing on YouTube.
Really? You mean Amazon.com?
No, Alibaba.com, your QR code is sponsored.
It's sponsored.
Ah, okay, yeah, I'll switch it to this. Well, let me just take all, I'm not sharing anything on the screen, so I'm just gonna take it all off. Yeah, okay, does that help?
yeah. There's one sub question.
Oh, that's
Sorry,
good.
it'll be a
Then
short
we're real
one.
crisp.
Sorry, guys, then I'll shut up, I
No.
promise. I haven't heard of many people doing this, but actually suggesting that the invoice is in RMB because of the fluctuations, because it's been down 14% the last year, and it's like suppliers didn't say anything on that.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot.
Because it's like we're happy to pay the fluctuation if it's, I guess it depends on what, like,
Yeah, I've not seen anything there either way. I feel like they just adjust their price to get what they want. They'll just add more R&B.
Yeah.
I've not found any, it's not like a secret hack that if you just go to them and say, hey, can you quote me from this, all of a sudden you're gonna get this big saving. They're just gonna adjust it to what they wanted to get paid to begin with.
I'm just in a weird holding pattern with this supplier. I think that's the thing, is like nothing's changed for so long, but it's just like,
Yeah, no, it sounds like you need to sit down and have like
Yeah.
a little intervention, or we need to get this quality back, and try to leverage it as, it's not just me, we brought in some investors.
If you really
Yeah.
care about the relationship, I would go to China. If you really care about the relationship with this factory, I would go.
What about like video, like a video call?
Not the same.
No.
It's not the same.
That's what I've heard too,
I find
yeah.
Especially if you have two different samples.
I'd find another factory and start all over again.
That's what someone suggested, that now because so many factories are going out of business, that before you start this conversation, you have another quote from someone else. Like, it's kind of the opposite of relationship.
Right,
It's
you
kind
don't
of
know
like,
if that factory's going out of business.
yeah,
too.
exactly. No, I don't know. But that's the thing, like, I haven't done any, we've been kind of nicey over the years. Like, we've never really done like a hard negotiation. I think the only thing I negotiated years ago was 20% deposit instead of 30, like, and we just left that for years.
Yeah, it sounds like it's time to like, it's about time to start doing some more pushing.
Because we want to increase prices for the tariffs too, and we want to make sure quality is going to do
I
that.
think the tariffs is a good conversation to have. but
Yeah,
it's-
so there's like a reason.
They're not just gonna like give you a 25% discount to offset your 25% tariff.
Yeah, but it's like we want to, if we really have to make sure quality is nailed in.
I'm gonna guess though, that if you haven't had those conversations, it means you haven't raised your price in a while either.
No, not in
Right,
the
so-
US market, yeah, so we're,
Right, so it seems like there's a good argument there for like a better pricing strategy as well.
it's like $49.99. It's like we're nervous to get into the 50s, kind of, so it's like that. But yeah,
If you're
but
nervous to go from 49 into the 50s, then go straight to 59 and put a $5 discount.
you're right. Yeah, that's what, I just need the courage, but yeah, thank you for the
Yeah.
permission. I can do
Okay.
it.
Fastest question, just to pick
Fastest?
the fastest you've ever. Everything she just said about the golden sample, because we were talking about that made sense to me, and obviously I didn't do that before I just got my sample. And so when I'm on V-Trust, this is why I was confused yesterday, when I pick which thing, it's during production inspection, right? Because I didn't start this pattern this way. Is that what I'm gonna choose?
I find their site to be, I call it pre-shipment inspection. I don't know what the name of their SKU for that product is, but I would just, David should have connected you with somebody.
Yeah.
I would ask the person, say, listen, I'm trying to look for an inspection that I can get my goods checked once they're made, but before I pay the remaining balance. And that's pre-shipment inspection. Random inspection is random. I wouldn't spring a random as your first inspection ever on somebody that you're working with. Because if you just have somebody show up at their gates saying, let me in, I'm inspecting, they're gonna say, no, we don't know who you are, we haven't spoken to the vendor. Like, it's random in the sense that they gotta give notice, and it's random in the sense that they are an approved party that they've agreed can go in here when you need them to go in.
Right.
And it's not like, knock, knock, it's Candace, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, we're probably gonna go a little over today on the 3:30 thing too, especially because Chris is here. I wanna take the time to, have some Q&A. Can we put the AC/DC music? No. You wanna come up and jump up here?
Time to get up.
Yep. You wanna go solo for a
Well, I
little bit?
brought, I brought some questions if you want them.
Oh, I'll ask you the question, sure.
I don't care.
Did anybody have any specific questions before I go off these?
One of them you already asked me.
Okay.
Craziest type of, you want me here?
Yeah, that's good. Can someone throw a cube?
Where, which way? Teamwork.
Assist.
All right, Tom, you have a question?
Oh,
Am I close enough?
Yeah, it could be, it's gonna get you fine.
So Amazon recently changed its policy on if they damage one of your items, they're gonna give you back the cost of the good, not the resale price of the good. They're not, from my understanding, they're not taking any marketing into it, they're not taking any shipping into it, it's just the cost of the good.
Yeah, that's like next week.
And how do we protect ourselves to get maximum value out of that cost of good that we may put into it? Because I think it's a really crummy policy, and you as a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer.
Okay, well,
Better than
Also,
a
I
lawyer.
Better than a
Better
lawyer.
than a lawyer, he's not a lawyer.
I think you're talking about the reimbursement companies. We don't actually do that.
I'm not looking for a reimbursement
But
company. I'm just-
maximum value,
Well, if
I mean,
I
we're
sell,
gonna find out on the 31st when this goes live, right?
yeah, I mean, if I sell a product for $30 and I get it from China for $5, but I ship it in and it costs me 10.
Right.
And then, I do some marketing and it costs me another 5. According to the policy, I'm only gonna get back the cost of the good, which I think is kind of a crummy, thing, although we have no leg to stand on. What are you advising as far as we as sellers putting as our cost of good on there? What kind of proof are we gonna have to do, or is that still just unknown right now?
Well, that's what I mean. This is more of a Getita question. Do you work with them? They do
Used
the
to.
reimbursement tickets, yeah.
Did you check the?
You're not gonna know what's being accepted or rejected until they officially roll it out.
Okay.
What Amazon is communicating to a company like that ahead of the policy change you know, they probably have more of an inside track on it.
Yeah, I think those companies are going to go out of
But
business,
they-
quite frankly, but.
They got tired of, well, I mean, some version of that will be out there to assist and
Okay.
advise, but they were tired of sending, I mean, every quarter, every year that comes through, people at Amazon are trying to save the company money, and that was maybe an obvious place for them to start because they're not concerned about the backlash, right? Like,
Yeah, I
Did
think,
you check the cost
I
of
mean-
goods estimate that Amazon gives you for your products? Because I did, and all my estimated cost of goods were way higher than my actual cost of goods. So in a way, they're gonna reimburse me more than my actual cost. And they're like, oh yeah,
Is
so
any of
maybe
that
your real
useful?
cost of goods. I'm like,
is any of that useful?
yeah.
That's why I'm asking about real costs, what we should be submitting, and then before it was the resale price, it was the price that you sold the item is what you got reimbursed for. So we're getting shorted, either way you look at it, so.
I mean, it's a non-fee fee, so,
You cannot, I mean, I don't know exactly, in Amazon Seller Central, you can download what they're estimating the cost of goods is, and then they ask you to submit the real cost of goods. For me in particular, almost every single product, the estimated cost of goods, which they would reimburse me for, was at least 2 times higher than my actual cost of goods. So, I'm not about to tell them, pay me less.
I would, obviously.
Well, that's my question though, is that if you do have a lost shipment, what's the next shoe to drop? Is they're gonna say, hey, show me your,
Right.
show me your, bill of lading?
Right.
Yeah, I think obviously, you're supposed to put the legal and correct value of the goods that's coming over the country. I think everyone's played loose with that for a while, and nothing much has happened. The geopolitical stuff, I don't know if that becomes an issue, but it seems like everyone's already putting their costs as low as possible because of the tariffs. You just have to run the numbers. Do I put it back where it is or where it could be and then take the 25% tariff? And then what is that number compared to the occasional one at the end of the day? It's not most that Amazon does lose, and I think it's just Amazon really doesn't lose that much when you think of everything
Yeah.
that it does and the cost of doing business.
Got it.
I asked this one, what is the craziest reasons you've seen for somebody getting suspended?
I mean, I had one 2 days ago. This guy in New Zealand got banned for using profanity on calls with account health or support. I don't remember. He's not like officially working with us. I just gave him some, I have kind of a soft place in my heart for New Zealand because I've spent a lot of time there. So I just spent some time telling him how to maybe, the problem is he knows how to apologize. He understands, I don't know how many times he did this. He did it at least once, maybe twice. But other people also are still writing things in like all caps. And like back in the day, or when I was working there, we'd kind of set it to the side or maybe throw it away if it was no useful info in the contact. Now they go straight to punishment, you know? They have this whole inappropriate contact. I mean, I should say back when I was doing seller performance, if people kept spamming us with it, we would do something. Like if it was like, okay, this person ignoring it's not getting the message across, so we're gonna have to do something. So there was a blurb would send for inappropriate contact. Now they use that all the time. For me, that was infrequent. Now it's like the frustration level with these teams is growing, right? They're experimenting with AI, the training's non-existent, they copy and paste stuff all over the place, and there's no real QA happening around the quality of their responses to sellers. But that's the wrong response to, you're kind of playing into their hand, if that's gonna work for this, to lose your cool. I mean, they don't care, you know, they'll just cut you out.
What about the most common reason?
Oh, I thought we were doing craziest, or
That
that is
was
the craziest,
craziest, yeah.
okay. Because for you, craziest was like repeat counterfeit.
I thought that was.
I mean,
Well, that's the craziest thing someone told me they needed your help with getting done. And it was a new person that came into the group, and that's what they said. They were like, I got suspended again for selling counterfeit items. And I was like, again?
yeah, I've seen people who got suspended, wrote a long plan of action, maybe got reinstated at some point, depending on whether or not they did it their way or with us. And then they just went right back to doing whatever they were busted for. And there's no reoffending anymore. They just say, come back and appeal it, saying that we have it wrong, you never reoffended. If you prove that to our satisfaction, then great. Otherwise, if you're going back, I mean, to me, that's crazy. to tempt fate twice, unless you just kind of want to risk it, you don't care what the result is. But that's crazy in today's context, because that's a dispute-only path. If you can't prove to them that they got your reoffending wrong, which some people have succeeded with proving, no, you're punishing me twice for the same crime, and you can't get reinstated for that. If you can't prove it to their satisfaction, then they don't reinstate, like the account. So whether it's counterfeit, I mean, the other example would be reviews, product reviews. I think people are starting to see shrinking margins and retreat to old tactics, I guess, with like the inserts. I mean, this is something I'm always talking about with certain podcasts. I know it's come up on the Helium one a few times. People are kind of going back to these old YouTube videos of, well, this is a gray area tactic, or this is something that you haven't heard about in a while, but it's not because it doesn't work, it's just because people are trying new stuff. And they're just like marketing videos, recycling old stuff. I mean, to me, product review solicitation is black and white, you know, just like it is. I understand they don't write their policies in a crystal clear way, but they probably never will. They're going to have it vague enough so that they can have some latitude in their interpretation.
It's written for them, not us.
It's written for, yeah, it's written really for them to be able to give you a link. And maybe the better point to make here is make sure your interpretation of that policy, or any listing policy too, is their interpretation. I know you can't call support and say, this is my interpretation, what do you think? And get a good answer. I realize that's not realistic, but.
What, you had a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Just, do you feel like
She was the one that did the counterfeit stuff.
Yeah.
like they are more, with vine stacking? The vine stacking strategy is, do you feel like you're seeing more people get in trouble? I met the first people that were suspended because of it, but they did 70, so do you feel like
Tell me
Amazon's
again, I'm sorry, I know you talked about this earlier,
It's
but,
cloning, so you have selling leads,
yeah.
and you create 10 additional SKUs as standalone product detail pages. And instead of being black Q, it'd be dark black Q and midnight black Q.
But not as variations?
Premium Q, but then you launch each one on Vine. And then once
Oh.
they're getting reviews, you then bring them in as children, and the reviews aggregate
I mean,
Not as children, as merged.
as merged.
yeah, I mean, if they think that you're doing a bad merge, they're eventually, maybe not immediately, going to catch up to it. And it's not that they are good at catching it, they've never been good at catching it.
Yeah.
But if it's a bad merge, people hire me all the time to report abuse.
Got it.
Because,
Okay.
well, the reason this stuff persists is that there aren't even that many companies who either want to report abuse or know how to do it, right? We're pretty much like the only ones who do it consistently or know how to do it.
That's good to know.
Everyone else, I'm not saying other people don't try, but opening a support case doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, so we could contact you, because we do, like, that happens all the time where you're like,
Where your competitor, well, the
Yeah.
reason I brought that up is because your competitors are probably watching you unless your competition is so insignificant they don't care. A lot of people that come to us are watching almost pathologically watching every move their competitors make. And the second somebody slips up, I'm not saying what you're talking about, but anything.
yeah,
Like even a minor listing violation, they'll see it as a point of weakness and they'll start reporting it, maybe low-level stuff, an email to a queue, a seller support ticket, just to see if there's a response that says, oh yeah, you're right, this is something that shouldn't be happening. Half the time they tell you, we'll look into it, that looks like a violation, and nothing even happens.
Yeah.
But you can escalate, at least you have an answer. You can escalate that later and say, remember on March 18th, you told me about this, they're still doing it, and now they're doing it in another context. That's essentially all we're hired to show, is things that anyone can see, and just making Amazon care. That's what the work is for.
That's great.
It's not like what we show them is something any reasonably educated person would agree with. You can see it live on the site. The question is, will they care?
This might go together, but what's the worst way to respond when you get suspended? And I guess what's the worst way to do it, and what's the most common mistake people make? Like the worst one you've
Panic
seen somebody-
appeals.
Say that again?
Hasty appeals / panic appeals. I still see that. It's the throwing darts at a board that I don't understand anymore, because it's just so obvious now. Like the auto rejections are so, I mean, maybe like when you and I first met, not commonly understood. But now it's like, you know, that if you're winging it, or just like, well, they gave us 48 hours, we have to put something together, so let's put anything together and send it in just so we can say we did it within 48 hours. If you know it's almost 0% chance of success, I would say, you know, take the extra time and do it right, because you don't want too many denials to start stacking up. And I do still hear from people who are like, their top selling ASIN goes down and they appeal like 10 times before they call me. You know?
You answer this one, this is in the same vein, but you answer this one like really good. Businesses try to be as profitable as possible. It's fair. So when they get suspended, they didn't think it was gonna happen to them, and somebody tells them, get ChatGPT to do it, or get this template from Fiverr. Why is that risky?
It's garbage in, garbage out. If Amazon thinks you didn't care enough to do a real appeal, then they're not going to bother reading it. And you can't just say, well, I'm not so good at writing, so I want to chat or AI to write it for me. It's like, okay, I suppose it is the quality of the inputs, you know, in theory. In practice, it's totally different, right? In theory, as long as you have all the right info there, who cares if you filter it through some software? Some relevant info and data should show up on the other side. That's not really how that works yet, maybe in 2 or 3 years. But as you can imagine, my former teams are getting deluged by these AI bot type responses, because everyone thinks it's just AI or bots reading them, which is not true. There's still giant piles of people, huge head count. Maybe the majority of it is in India, true. But there's still tons of people reading these things. And it's just like, if that's your first or second step along that path, you're already going down the wrong road. So it's a question of how far down that road you go before you come all the way back, start all over. But then it's not even just Seller Central appeals. I've seen people doing escalations. And you can tell, I mean, if I can tell, then somebody, when you send it to me, because I mean, most of us can tell if it's been like rewritten by AI, or if it's like a whole AI email, right? I mean, most of us can tell. So imagine not just how quickly I can tell, which is typically right away, but I'm reading those appeals just as often as somebody at Amazon, maybe sometimes more, right? I'm doing it 8 hours a day for, you know, whatever, 12 hours a day sometimes. So are they. So they can tell it's AI written, or not even AI, just templates. There's all these companies, I mean, I assume in a couple of years it'll all be gone, but there's all these companies and law firms and whatnot who are peddling these fill-in-the-blank templates. It's kind of the same thing as the AI stuff. They've seen those templates like a million times. They've never accepted them, you know? So it's like, you're not going to be the one person who had their template or AI, you know, like bottom line is they can tell. So why waste the appeal? Like if you're not ready to appeal, don't say I'm going to do a ChatGPT version until I'm ready to fact find, due diligence, research, data dive, whatever, and then put together a real appeal. Because once you start emailing senior management, because Seller Central appeals don't work, then that's, I mean, forget AI reading stuff. That's definitely going to a person who delegates it to a manager who's one of their direct reports. And if you're talking about like writing to an S-team executive, there's only what, 3 dozen of those? 2 to 3 dozen? They probably have 1 to 2 dozen people working, directly reporting to them. Those are managers. I mean, maybe they don't read them that well, but they're not going to stick around very long working for a higher level executive if they don't read anything. That's not the time to do AI stuff, so.
In your opinion, in the current state of Amazon, level of, I don't know how to say that. What is a suspendable event when people try to capture a customer from Amazon? Like clearly trying to say, hey, you give me a 5-star review, that's a suspendable
Yep.
event. But a warranty card, is that a suspendable event? Come to my website and give me your email, is that a suspendable event?
I mean, if you ask certain marketing-oriented people in the industry, I guess, or in the community, they'll say definitely not on the harvesting the emails, come to my website. And the reason they're saying that is because there hasn't been a history of people getting punished for that. Back when I was working there, Amazon was worried about sales being diverted off the platform. Now they almost never worry about that. What they're worried about, because they know they control all the sales, the meaningful sales, what they're worried about is somebody's going to complain that they went to your site and, buyer-seller messaging is all reviewable, and communications manager is what, the Amazon term. So then you're outside of their tools. The last thing they want is somebody to complain, once I got out of your ecosystem and they started sending me emails, they started sending me way too many emails. I got spammed, or I was offered a special discount deal and then I tried to redeem it and then they said it was expired. Like, Amazon has no knowledge of it. They can't see any of it. But it started with your relationship with Amazon's buyer, and then it permutated into something that they don't like, can't control, don't want to deal with. So it's like, in theory, I don't see suspensions for, like, you sent this person to your website, they entered their email, you started sending them all these offers, and now they're upset about it. I mean, I don't see that in the language of the suspension messaging. Just like if you have an 800 number on your packaging, I mean, or have your website on your packaging, they don't immediately warn you for why are you sending people to your website. I mean, it's not historically enforced. But the warranty cards, it's like people have tried to use those as a gateway to, like, acquiring buyers and getting them away from Amazon and getting them into your world. If you start using the warranty as a way to, like, put special offers in front of them, that's where it starts getting dicey very quickly, because Amazon might see that.
Competitors will see it.
Competitors will see it, which means if they have any knowledge, I mean, actually, there are still a lot of sellers who don't know how to report this stuff, but we're right around the corner from, like, everyone's going to know how to report this stuff pretty soon. They're going to report it constantly. And once they report it, Amazon can see your funnel. They're going to start making their own value judgments on, are you trying to steer them away from Amazon, but are you angling for something like a positive product review? And it's not even about asking for reviews anymore. If you keep giving people stuff outside of the order system, or just because you want to reward them for buying from you on Amazon, if they end up, in an unspoken fashion leaving you nice reviews, they are trying to capture that info and they will use it against you. Because they're always looking for people to suspend for reviews abuse.
The other thing I found crazy about that is most of the people that do that, first of all, the buyer doesn't want to leave Amazon. Like, they love, that's where they shop.
Right.
You're trying to take someone somewhere where they don't want to be. And then the other one is, most of the people are not set up to even give a semi-good experience on their own platform for that same customer.
Good point.
So they're taking a risk to take someone where they don't want to go, to give them a really bad experience, and then get signed up to their weekly newsletter.
Well, the
It's like
discounts,
that.
the potential free product and the discounts
Yeah.
are what they get when they go there.
Yeah.
So they're willing to go maybe to another website. But if you start getting, especially like when you first do these things, if there's a pile of positive reviews that coincide with the timeline for whatever you just did, they're going to see that spike. Then you combine that with your competitor sees it And competitors can report you, like, you don't really get punished. I mean, if you spam, maybe you would. But if you're like, I think this is abuse, here you go, can you take a look at it? And Amazon looks at it and says, no, this actually isn't abuse. All they do is send that person a generic message saying, well, look into it, take action as appropriate. They don't get punished unless they do it like every 48 hours. So on a lark, they'll do it and show Amazon stuff. And sometimes Amazon, yeah, that actually is a violation. So it's worth it. It'll always be worth it to report it. The only reason this doesn't happen constantly is because, like it did with like the ManyChat sequences or the Facebook Messenger stuff back in the day, or the rebates.
Mm-hmm.
The rebates were like, I don't know if any of you remember those days.
They still work.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
mean,
always
yeah.
like holes in the net, but I mean, from the product review abuse team standpoint, the rebates were shooting fish in a barrel. It was like anyone who's crazy enough to do this stuff was just serving themselves up on a platter. And so from Amazon's perspective, those were a bunch of hundreds or thousands or low thousands even of little investigations where they could just bang them out, get credit for suspending all these sellers. They finally understood you got to go after the companies who are pushing this stuff. I mean, it took Amazon forever to like lock in, and they're like, who's doing this? They have a long history of punishing the sellers and not the who's
That's changed.
That's been a big change in the last
They have
few
this
years.
SPP that's coming out now, so like even people that
Yeah.
service other accounts are now gonna be.
Yeah. The FTC was partially responsible for the we're going to start suing these people. Do you want to get in our way, or do you want to ride along with us type stuff? So.
Any question out here? I have another one. It's kind of, Fernando, was that a question? No? You look scared. I was gonna ask him. Ask anything you want, Fernando.
You're in a safe place. Doesn't sound safe, I guess.
Chris McCabe. I didn't introduce him. I thought I did.
Oh.
I didn't?
You did a what? You
Cued the AC/DC music and everything.
Oh no, yeah. You mentioned e-commerce, Chris. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris McCabe.
I'm the
from
Chris,
E-commerce Chris.
in the e-commerce Chris. Yeah.
This question.
You mean like my background? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
5.5 years in seller performance, and I've been doing this for 10 years. So it's a decade and a half of kind of doing this stuff more or less every day. Suspension.
I thought I did that in the beginning. I was talking about how we help more sellers than anybody else I know.
Yeah.
and- Okay, yeah, my bad.
But that may have predated your, do you reset the recording? How does this work?
No, I run.
Yes, okay.
I'm curious about what we have down here, but we kind of touched on what's the biggest mistake sellers make when they appeal.
Yeah.
We touched on templates and AI. Can you
Oh,
talk?
I have one more. Thinking that something is a legal issue when it's not legal at all. There are very, very few things you need lawyers for when it comes to Amazon, like intellectual property. Well, if you have a copyright, whether you're the recipient of the claim or you're submitting it, intellectual property is something that you either know backwards and forwards yourself because you're an IP lawyer yourself, or for some other reason, or you hire somebody to, examine it and assess it and tell you what to do, right? Same as any other legal issue. And I think there were just a couple of crazy characters running around who were lawyers who were trying to make everything sound legal for their own kind of selfish interests, but there aren't that many things you need
Strange,
lawyers
though.
for.
Right, lawyers being selfish.
Well, no, I mean, just they were kind of muddying the issues, to create fake reasons for fees, and then that's how it started, and there were a couple of years of that. But then it got worse because they were starting to say, well, I've got a back channel to Amazon Legal, and well, it's a suspension, so that's kind of legal because they've frozen your money, and they'd come up with a pretense for that. But what I noticed over the years was a lot of them would pretend to know lawyers and legal, but they'd just give you like a form letter that would be mailed to corporate or HQ in Seattle.
You get them to help you with some missing inventory, and they're like, you got to work with me. I'm a lawyer. We have attorney-client privilege. And I'm like, well, yeah, we do have attorney-client privilege, but why do I need it? I just need you to.
If Amazon investigators start annotating the account like legal is looking into this, other teams don't fix it for you. and don't touch it. They wait until the legal teams, first of all, sometimes they think legal's actually going to render some sort of judgment on it, which doesn't happen. It could be stuck in purgatory. But they see the annotations. They're not legally trained. They're not lawyers themselves. They are afraid of contravening something a legal team might be looking at or doing. Legal teams at Amazon take forever to review or respond to anything. So if you're in that purgatory until legal decides they're not going to do it, eventually they will say, we're not weighing in on this one, take it back. They give it back to my former team 2 months later. What if it's an ASIN that you needed to sell for those 2 months and there weren't even any legal issues present? The only reason you didn't appeal it and get it reinstated is because somebody told you that there was something legal going on, but there wasn't. So you made a legal argument where none was expected, none was appreciated, and it wasn't routed to the right place. Like, they're already routing things to 94 different wrong places. Why give them opportunities to, because I mean, think from their perspective. They love the opportunity to say, this isn't mine. I'm not responsible for this. I get credit for reading it. I get credit for annotating the account about it. I don't even have to decide anything. I get to flip it to somebody else because it's hands off for me. So it's like, it's great for the lawyer you're paying. It's terrible for you because you've hamstrung your ability to resolve the issue, which if it's not legal in the first place, why add that extra element to it?
Is there any legal way of getting your account annotations?
No.
No?
Oh,
Asking.
are people paying for, yeah, people are paying for black market account annotations.
He's asking for a friend.
I'm asking for the legal route.
I mean, there are people with paid account managers who do some digging to find out what's going on with a particular case, but they initiate with an internal ticket, and they can get some information about what's going on with it, but they don't even give the blow-by-blow to them. So if they're not giving the blow-by-blow to account managers, there's
So
no
the
way.
answer is no. The answer is no. There's no legal way.
I guess the origin of the question, I'm assuming, is there's all these people out there pitching this stuff.
Right.
Why are they doing it? Or
No. Clearly, your job is to try to understand those annotations to the best of your ability so you know how to respond to it.
I don't
So if anybody
think
would know, it would be you.
most people who have shown us that stuff or who have tried to interpret it themselves don't get any bang for their buck out of even getting those. But they've already done something illegal, number one. People got this weird idea that this was commonplace, so that made it, less than illegal. It's always been illegal. You're talking about screenshots from internal tools. So obviously that's private data leakage from inside the company. So.
I got these two, and I think it wraps it. But we haven't touched on. Can you touch on compliance docs? And this one I had no idea. But
Well, compliance docs, just people are being asked for testing docs. I mean, I can wait to you.
no, but how for private label sellers, even beyond, I'd say, some of the obvious, like you have an ingest. You have something that you ingest.
Right.
You have something that's a kid's product. You have a topical. Should even products beyond that be thinking about making sure they get a hold of their compliance documents from the factory? Because I'm hearing more about compliance docs now than I ever have.
Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to bring Leah with me here. I mean,
Okay.
she's on her way to Vegas for the Prosper Show because she's a speaker. But there's the sheer tonnage of these compliance issues. She handles all of them because I still don't understand. This is what I was asking you yesterday. They give you like sometimes hours to present these documents, and then we have brand owners, huh?
It's automatic.
We have brand owners telling us like, oh, we have to appeal this within, I mean, maybe they gave them 70 or 7 days, and they come to us with like 48 hours left. But they'll say it takes weeks to get this stuff. And I'm mystified because I'm like, why don't you already have it, expecting them to ask for it? That's where I'm kind of asking you the question of like, how is that still happening, because
Because if
you
you-
have to expect them to ask you for anything at any moment, like.
Right, right, it's not like, I won't say your product, but it's a ceramic, yes? Right, so I used to do a lot with ceramics and porcelains and stuff. There's not a spot I go to Amazon and say, oh, ceramic product, here are all the potential compliance docs that we
Right.
can ask of you.
Right.
And instead, it'll be right before Q4, and they'll be like, you know what, we think there's too much lead
Yep.
inside of your ceramics.
Testing docs.
And they want, you have 48 hours for your account goes down. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's why I wish Leah could, I mean, obviously she works with me, so you can ask her if you need to, but there are ways of kind of figuring out the laundry list of things they could ask you for per specific types of product. I mean, she works on all kinds of stuff. Some of it's consumables, some of it's like what you're talking about. But that's where a lot of people started getting busted for faking documents. They'd take an old one and make a change to it, not realizing that, I don't know what they're using, but Amazon has excellent tools for detecting document manipulation. They're constantly kicking people off for this. And that's another appeal path where it's like, if you think we falsely accused you and you want to prove it to us, great, go ahead, we'll reinstate your account. If you're guilty of fabricating documents, we don't want to keep you around because you're not trustworthy. And then there are all these people who are like, well, you didn't give us enough time. You know, they admit it, or first they deny it, then they admit it. There's all these games people are playing, and that really ramped up in 24, I think, the last year. And obviously, manipulating the documentation compounds the mistakes, and then once you start doing multiple things like that, they're like, you know, from their perspective, anyone who's willing to do something like that is replaceable. Doesn't matter what you sell anymore, because everything's sold on Amazon except for the obvious things that maybe will never be sold on Amazon. So it's like they don't need that one particular seller for that one particular kind of product. It's like we can, from their perspective, it's we can find somebody else who does exactly what you do, who didn't fake their documents. That's just their approach. Do you want this
No,
back?
I got the last one. Before going into the next section though, what, can you share anything with everyone about, like, I guess just good advice for sellers in general, or private label sellers, however you want to address it, moving forward to navigate 2025?
I mean, don't cost yourself revenue by taking too long to appeal stuff properly, because margins are so small, fees can come at you at any moment. There's the reimbursement, you know, that's a good example of like, sometimes it's not a fee, it's a policy change that just changes your cost, you know, overnight.
AWD.
Yeah. So I just see, I understand how when people are new, you tend to be less knowledgeable, less experienced, make more mistakes. It's just not a new, and I'm not saying never start a new brand on Amazon, but it's not a new seller's enforcement climate. The enforcement teams, and I still see appeals where people will put in the first couple of lines of the email that they send maybe to an exec, we're new.
I'm a small mom and pop.
I'm small, yeah, like, I mean, it put me in a really weird spot. I don't know if it was Prosper Show. I was speaking at a conference where you have to tell people like, stop leading with your appeal with we're a women-owned business. Like, that's not a popular thing to say.
I've done, well, not the women-owned business one, but
That's just an example.
a long time ago, I did one that was like, I'm a minority-owned business, I'm a small mom and pop, I'm gonna have to pull my kids out of private school. I didn't have
Well,
kids at the time, but I was
yeah.
just like,
And Amazon has programs where they're boosting women-owned business. Like, they have other teams that have nothing to do with enforcement that will be all in on that. Those two teams don't talk to each other. They don't even know each other. So it started with the product reviews, the inserts, right? We'll use a portion of whatever we're a small growing business. Yeah, saying you're small is bad. Family owned, bad. For the reviews, I mean. They just started putting those all as manipulation. You're trying to guilt people into leaving you a nice review, yeah.
So I have a competitor that has like a handwritten note that says like, leaving a review would mean the world to our small business. But I was told that it was like, well, they didn't say good or bad. Could I, like, there's reviews with the picture in it, and it works. They have so many reviews.
I mean,
And I turn them in.
that's all it says? There's no other, I mean.
No link, nothing. It's
they're
just kind of a
not-
note of like, it would mean the world to us if you did, like,
I mean, you can ask for a review.
Okay, so
It's
that's
just
okay.
you're not supposed to tip the scales one way or the other.
yeah,
It
so
has to
they
stay.
didn't. They just, but they did say mean the world to our small business.
Leave a reviewable.
I mean,
planetary-
small business,
No, there
people
was
have been punished for that, yeah.
I mean, they're selling like 30,000 units a month.
It's probably more
Right.
than
You're
that
not making
now.
it in your
I mean, it's
kitchen
like
anymore. Yeah.
everyone, it's become such a knee-jerk phrase to say like,
Yeah.
we're a small growing business, like maybe they just sort of let it go sometimes. I'm talking about people were like making it sound like people were starting to bring in pets, you know, like dogs and cats, you know, like maybe we'll give some of your purchase to the local shelter, and like people were just
Okay.
finessing it. It wasn't just a warranty thing. People were trying to finesse the entire, and that's why like everyone was trying so much stuff. That's why there were all these crackdowns. If people hadn't tried this sort of, you know, chiseling away at the policy, then maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But it's just the kind of marketplace it is now. Like they don't want any nonsense. They don't want to put up with bad behavior. People do, getting back to the guy who used profanity on the phone or whatever, and people using all caps, like they already know that sellers are frustrated beyond belief, right? Their communication is probably never going to improve. I mean, if they go way more into the AI, then you know it's not going to improve. So, I mean, they've had numerous opportunities. There have been tons of public complaints by sellers and other people and members of Congress about how terrible their communication is, right? They've had tons of opportunities to improve it. It's only gotten worse. I mean, the messaging is completely vague, boilerplate, opaque. They haven't really paid any price for that, so they're going to stick with that. So it's just like, getting back to your original question, don't give them opportunities to keep your listing down or to keep your account down because of rookie mistakes on appeals. Like, they're not going to care if you've never appealed something before or if you've been selling for 10 years and you've appealed 1,000 times. They're kind of like putting you all in the same bucket. And there's no more plan of action process where it's like, admit fault, accept responsibility, unless they tell you, give us a plan of action that includes these parameters. Then you owe them one. So I'm not saying don't submit it. But there are so many appeals where they don't even ask for a plan of action. And people, I guess, they're using AI to scrape internet content from 2 years ago when they were asking for a POA. And so they're submitting all this old stuff, and it's like, you're just costing yourself time, the money from the lost ASIN. Some people don't even understand the dispute process. Like, if it's a completely wrong flag and you dispute it properly, you can get that listing back up in one try. We do it all the time. Or maybe 2 tries if the first one doesn't get read properly. But that's not even about me doing it for you. Like, you can do some of this yourself if you don't start off on the wrong foot. And I just keep seeing people, not to dwell on the AI, but I just see people spinning their wheels, opening seller support cases. Account health, I haven't talked about at all, but account health loves to give you an answer, like a phone call, you can call and talk to somebody. They love to give you answers. They're paid to give you answers. They're not evaluated on the accuracy of the answer. So if your ASIN's down, you appeal it, it gets rejected, you're really only calling them for one thing. Not to say, read the account annotations to me, because they can't do that for privacy reasons, but you're trying to find out why your previous appeal was denied so you can refine it and resubmit, right? They know that, you know that, everyone knows that. But they're kind of trained in misdirection too. So don't even bother calling account health unless you're going to, unless you're planning on pushing them for real data, real info that you can base a new appeal on. I understand they won't necessarily give it to you, but you can call back. It's only the people who call 5-10 times a day who see the button disappear for a while. You can call back, talk to somebody in the US. If you keep getting India, don't do the call. Call later in the day when you're more likely to get somebody in the US. Everyone understands the India reps are probably not going to give you the right info.
What is later in the day?
5, 6 o'clock.
Eastern?
Eastern, or Pacific. Just late afternoon wherever you are, unless you're in Europe or Asia. Let's put it that way.
Cool.
Because you can get real info from those people if you If you run the call, if you sit back passively and ask them passive questions, they'll tell you whatever they can to get you off the phone, but if you run the call, you get more.
Cool.
So-
Besides the QR code up there, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, we have a contact form on the e-commerce Chris website, or you can send it to support@ecommercechris.com as an email. Goes to the same place, multiple people keeping an eye on them, and we usually reply pretty quickly. Typically, even on weekends, I'm working on something else, so I'll see them pop up, even if like my assistant isn't working, but yeah.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go through the other part of this. You're welcome to stay. Or,
You want me to sit here? Yeah.
you guys want? I'm gonna go over different ways, 5 different types of products to sell in 2025 that are. All right, so we started late today, and we had an opportunity to have Chris in here, which I hope everybody appreciated. And looks like we're gonna go over time today since I started late. At 3:30, or at any time, obviously you're not hostage here, but at 3:30, if anybody has to go, don't think you're being rude. You gotta go, you gotta go. I apologize that I'm gonna be
There he
going over.
goes. Yeah.
Probably gonna do tacos later. He's not going anywhere.
No.
All right. That was good. I learned some stuff.
As long as I can keep you interested.
Yeah,
It's
no,
worth
that
the
does it.
flight down.
That does
You
it.
know, I have 2 accounts. One of my accounts has a special section in support.
You
That
notice
is a blue box.
a trend with him, a lot of black hat stuff.
Then, whenever you call this number, it's only US support. I don't know what the name of this department is, maybe you know it. But
You-
like, this support is.
You're not talking about account health?
Huh?
You're not talking about account
Not
health?
account. No, it's just regular support. You can either open a case regularly, or you
Mhm.
can just blue extra box that they have up there. And I only have it in one of the 2 accounts.
I want to see your blue box.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And you call, always US based.
Can you pop it open here?
They don't put you on hold.
Are you talking about catalog? What are we?
No, not catalog.
Okay.
Can you open it here? Or?
I don't have, no, I don't have it.
It's
Here.
safe. You can log in under any
It's
device.
a secret.
any-
It's a secret.
But a lot of people have it, not just me.
Yeah.
This support is amazing. I mean, somehow I could unlock it on my second account, the one that I was telling you about. Maybe they actually give it them.
I mean, if you go to Amazon Accelerate, the conference they do in Seattle, you can occasionally complain to the people who run the stuff in person and say, look, not complain, well, the data, the info you show them will speak for itself. What I did was I showed some examples of like, this is what you asked for, this is what was sent, this is the response that came back. Okay, first time, could have happened to anybody. We did it again, we found out what was missing or what you said was missing, we did it again, we got the same response. Like, if you show them stuff like that, they know that you're not going to get high quality answers out of it. The account health team was created because people were like, I can't get to somebody who's going to give me, you
There's
know.
another team altogether that's even better than account health. I don't know
Even
what-
better.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you went to Accelerate in September, they were mentioning that they were toying with escalated support options, which they're trying to test that out to use more AI with it, right?
Yeah, definitely US based.
So-
They don't put you on hold. They answer
Yeah.
right away. They're like, you can tell that they're working on you and they follow up.
It's
all that
because it's
trust.
you and they like you.
I guess.
Yeah,
Squeakiest wheel gets the oil,
that's right.
Must be.
Anyway,
All right, so the idea here, for anybody that wasn't here in the very, very beginning when I mentioned this, is if I just say, sell this, it's great to sell in 2025, that means it's no longer gonna be great to sell in 2025 because half of you are gonna start selling it and it's gonna be saturated. So instead of doing that, which is a total, actually Ramon, not to keep putting you on the spot, you have a good story with that one.
Yeah.
Brief, you want me to say it? Or?
Yeah.
I know you love storytelling, so I'm gonna let you go at it.
Got the mic, go.
Ramon, early, man, this had to be really, wow, you were even thinking of private label that early. 2017. And he decided he's gonna get into a private label, Jungle Scout. Jungle Scout was pretty much the dominating
Yep.
topic at the time, Greg Mercer. Jungle Sticks, and he's showing basically how to use Jungle Scout to find products and how Jungle Scout ranks them. No one really touched on, he also had 10,000 people buying it back then, and you can get it for free in exchange for an unbiased review, and how that
Unbiased,
influenced it.
yeah.
But he Ramon uses Jungle Scout and he finds what he thinks is a really good product at the time. Shockingly now, it's still not as bad as you would think, but it looked good at the time especially. So he gets on this person's webinar. Maybe it was the webinar that stopped him from placing, like, he would have already placed it, but he wanted to listen to this webinar. He was ready, like this was gonna happen. And the webinar, 1,000 people on it. 1,000 people on the webinar. Greg Mercer picks a product, he uses an example of how this would be a fantastic product to sell, and the product is none other than the product that he was going to sell.
No way.
And it was if you go to these offices and you see these like little plexiglass things against the wall where you could slide a paper in there and it's like your exit, and these little signs. There was like nobody there. The people that were there were like, didn't know how to play the Amazon game, and obviously that changed rapidly afterwards, right? And
that's why Greg is where he is today.
that's why Greg is where today. And
Which is in a good place.
It's a really good example there. But the idea here is not to create a scenario like that, especially in the group.
Hold on, wait, did you go forward with it?
No, of course not.
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God, no.
It traumatized him so bad, it took a full 8 years for him to get back into private
Are you-
Not that long. It took me a long time to do PL after that.
But the good thing is, it's like, wow, obviously I'm on the right, like, I know what I'm doing when it comes to researching and
I didn't
picking
think
something.
of it that way. I thought it was like, I better not.
That was a very glass half full answer.
Yeah.
I'm an optimist.
Yeah, that was very optimistic there. He just felt like somebody just shot a bazooka at his head.
Yes to both, yes to both.
Yes. So we want to avoid those scenarios. So I really try to avoid a specific product. And when I do, like I did this Ikiwana thing or different products that I brought in the past, I let you guys know, like, hey, I'm sharing these as more of like the thought process behind why I think it's a good idea, so that you can apply that to another product and not necessarily sell that product. I don't want anyone to come back and tell me you had to pull your kids out of private school because of a product suggestion that I gave. Having said that, with everything that we've just talked about with Chris and over the day today, and rising costs everywhere, not being a very conducive environment for new sellers, there is one category of products that the sellers of them are not complaining at all. And I think it's worth diving into why, and those are higher priced products, right? So products that sell between $150 and $100 to $250. Sometimes you get way too high, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think you can get to a price point that you kind of wonder, like, maybe I should go to the store and put my hands on this, and some, maybe not cameras, but certain things. In this case, higher priced products, the people that sell them between $100 and $250, they don't complain. Something else that's pretty wild about that is you would think that means, wow, the cost of these products is just massively higher as well, and maybe that doesn't fit my budget. A lot of the times that's not the case. A lot of the times they just position the product really nice. And I see a lot of I mean, there's still tons of products out there that are selling for $150 that their cost is $25. That's pretty nice, right? Well, for some reason, because either you or the person you learned from was trained by and educated by the Greg Mercers and these set filters, nothing against them, I think they're great, but there's this set of filters that floats around there in the private label space that you're supposed to evaluate a product on. And I think it really just sets people up for failure. And one of those is to kind of avoid products that sell at $100 and $250, and you're looking for this, what is it now? You're like 25 to 65, 25 to 50 bucks, and weighs less than this, and has the winning lotto ticket numbers on it, and like all this other stuff. And that's what everybody's filters is, because nobody goes in there and show me things that are ranked over 200,000 BSR, and that hasn't had a sale in the last 2 months, and that has 1,000 reviews, 5-star, right? Everyone's putting the same filters in. So I would encourage, and I'm talking a little faster right now, not because of any secret energy drink, but just trying to like not make this too late. But higher priced products it's an amazing opportunity right now on Amazon. There's plenty of built-in margin there for those products. I find the return rates on those products actually less. Not sure why, but I find them to be less than the $9.99 milk frother, right? But okay, so that's one. Any questions on that, by the way? Or anybody want to shoot it down? Feel free to disagree, or tell me why you think it's,
I think high price products, I think huge.
I knew you were going to jump on that. Anybody
I
disagree?
really think-
Pound Ramon.
I really think, okay, what's up, the 30-pound single unit product that we have to ship from the other side of the world, and that is very expensive to maneuver. That's what I think whenever I think.
So you hear higher priced product, and for you, that means
That's what I think.
bulkier,
Yeah,
heavier product.
Bulk and heavy and
Right,
oversized.
not hygrometer, higher end digital hygrometer, or, but,
Maybe I haven't explored it.
yeah,
That's what it means.
yeah, absolutely, but,
It could be a luxury pet product
Yeah.
for fancy pets.
sure, for the cat.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm doing a test with a higher price product and thank you. So I'm doing a test with a higher price product, and the thing is that I'm getting a ton of returns. So
Interesting.
yeah, I'm getting like 15-20% refunds.
Without sharing exactly
Yeah.
what the product is, can you share, like?
It's on the health space.
Okay.
Yeah,
What space?
health.
Health space.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of health products are not returnable though, right?
yeah.
No one's.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking ways of how to minimize that, but I don't think I'm gonna continue with the product, even though it has like 50% margin, as you said.
What are the returns for?
Well, any reason really, but I think people just get the product, they use it, they get the benefit, so they get the health benefit, and then they return it, after.
That's so interesting. Like,
Yeah.
you're not comfortable sharing the product?
No, not really.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
I love the data you can get from returns, from, I sent 30 to Vine instead of clobbering Vine.
Don't boast.
Oh, don't
No,
believe.
keep going,
Okay,
keep
hold on,
going.
wait, wait.
This is real life stuff.
The gym, get the new jawline.
Yeah.
The send in 30 products to Vine, you get 20, 20 bad reviews, and you blame the Vine reviewer. But
Good job getting the crowd too.
yeah,
Sorry.
I love, like, and I know you know what you're doing, so you looked at all that, and you still don't see an opportunity to improve the product, to get around that. You don't see bringing in like on-site support or anything else to like lower the returns.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I can still do, but I don't think it's gonna work in the end.
Interesting. Well, that goes to show
Yeah.
you, like, my experience has been that, but you have other people that have a different experience, so like,
Yeah.
look into it.
And the
I'm gonna
product,
totally message you later. I want to know what that product is.
yeah, and the product is, I mean, it's
Because you're saying a person can get it and they can use it once and get the health benefit. Like,
no,
my
not
mind
not
goes
once,
somewhere.
not once, but like you use it for a couple of weeks, and then like you just want your
And
100.
because there's returns, that means it's not sexual wellness, it's not medical.
Yeah.
So like, I'll message you. Like, I'm very curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's not me, but someone in the furniture like home, they do really nice shelves and stuff, and their
Yeah.
return rate is about 15%, and they're gonna stop selling on Amazon, sometimes higher, because they can't resell. They're also FBM, but they sell really beautiful. The listings are accurate to what it is, but they said the US market is just too brutal, so they're just stopping because of the high amount of
That's a common
Mm-hmm.
returns.
thing I've heard recently, a lot of returns are simply going up.
Yeah, I've seen returns kind of
Yeah.
going up everywhere, but
It's everywhere.
and I almost wanted to say something. I was like, let me not pick a fight here, but I'm like, a lot of people I've been talking to lately, they wish they had a 15% return rate. It's not, like, it's been, yeah, that's wild. Okay, so higher priced products is an option. Make sure you kind of explore the market. A return on a sofa will just kill you. Okay, so reverse engineer oversize is what I call this one. Still a great market here. I would recommend using a tool like Jungle Scout and filtering for oversized products. And then an example I'd give is, say you have a tabletop game that's a wood tabletop game. Most people will sell the wood tabletop game, or maybe they cut it in half and put it together, but it still exceeds 18 inches on any side. It's very easy to get these and just go to the factory and say, I need this to fit in packaging this size. Can we make the game to fit the packaging? Bring yourself out of oversize, and that extra money you now have to put in your pocket, based on Amazon's fees, not charging you oversized fees, that's usually enough to just dominate on ads for that category. I've done this with bigger tubs, like anything that sells in like a tub or something that resembles kind of like a protein tub but a little bigger, remember, even those tubs, they're like 3/4 empty in the inside. But you can get a lot of these and you can put them in stand-up pouches and compress them. Look what they do with pillows. Anybody ordered a pillow on Amazon?
Yeah,
And you're like shocked.
shocked.
Yeah, you're shocked at what you've received, right?
Or like a down blanket, like a comforter.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like
just
flat. You're like-
Yeah, you're like, what? Right? And it's in this tiny box or
Yeah.
a mailer,
Compressed.
right?
And it's like a queen.
Yeah. Well, I never ordered a queen.
No, I got a mattress like that.
Yeah, a mattress? No.
One of those Tufted needle mattresses.
Yeah, is that the same here? I bought a mattress in Amazon.
I think it was like that.
No way.
It was, okay, maybe not that, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It
I
came in
bought-
like
I bought
a
king
little-
size mattress, it was this big. just
Yeah.
The length.
Maybe,
King size. Like this.
yeah.
Yeah, you've gotten wild. You've found some stuff on Amazon that you buy that just, you order like groceries
Yeah.
straight on Amazon. You could order meat, you could order anything, and I was like, what? Yeah. But that's an amazing opportunity right there. And again, I think it's amazing because like I like the fragiles and the ceramics and everything like that, is every guru out there will tell you, avoid this category. And if they say
Right.
avoid this category, just figure that out. At some point, somebody thought they couldn't sell mattresses and pillows and comforters and all that stuff on Amazon, and you just figure out how to solve for that, and now, for a while, you are the only one being able to do it. But check out those categories. The easiest ways to find those would be either whenever you're searching for something on Amazon, can you search by size? No, only by price. On the software, you can. And go to the software and just pull up oversized things in different categories, and then just explore the packaging. So I think it's great. I've always joked, semi-joked, that I would love to find a fragile, oversized item to sell on Amazon because nobody would be there. I would be like, let's figure out how to protect this thing in the packaging and re-engineer it so that it fits, and I think you're in an 8-figure business. But it's semi-joking, but basically saying where everybody else does not want to be there. And I did that a lot with fragile ceramic, porcelain, all that stuff, and it's been great. Third one here, my little note is, we touched on it a little bit. What's your name again? I'm sorry, because we're speaking here. Yep. Behind you.
Wait,
Erin,
me?
Erin.
Oh, Erin, yeah.
Erin?
So I thought you were
Yeah.
thinking.
Food. Like things that you can, that are replenishable, that you can actually start looking at what I think is probably the most important metric out there, which is LTV. The lifetime value of a customer. You pay to acquire them once, and then they're on some kind of subscribe and save or subscription on your site or whatever. That is the way you combat rising cost per click and ads, in my opinion. I think sometimes we get on the wagon of like bashing Amazon. It's still the best player in town by a long shot. Even when you talk about TikTok, or we talk about TikTok sometimes, you got to understand it is such a distant second. Like, I don't even know that, are they second?
Well, people talk about Walmart a lot.
Right.
I mean, our clients, most of them are like 90-something% Amazon.
Right.
So the Walmart piece is like 5%. So this idea that Walmart is surging, I mean, maybe for some people, for some stuff.
They've been surging since they bought Jet.
Yeah, I don't see it as much as some of you guys do maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't understand the discussion or conversation around it,
Yeah.
because you'll know if Walmart's catching up to
Yeah.
Amazon. You will
Well, they came
know.
out with great news. They said, they officially said they reached 98% of every household in the US.
Who?
That's Walmart. So those are good headlines.
Yeah, look, I've done
Yeah.
really well on Amazon, but I have a GED at the end of the day. I'm gonna throw that out. So what I'm about to say, take it with a grain of salt. But my way to see whether they're gonna work, eBay at one point dominated everything when I started. That's all it was eBay. But if you saw 3 houses, identical cars in the front, and in one had a pile of boxes that just got there that were Amazon boxes, one was Walmart, and one was eBay. And lawns were cut the same, everything was identical. And I asked you to tell me which one of those houses was better off. You picked the one with Amazon. And then you probably picked the Walmart and eBay would duke it out, right? And they could be equal. But I feel like there's an image that you have when you shop on Amazon. It's like a status thing, and that sort of branding, I don't know that Walmart even wants to get out of it, being identified with that. And I think until that happens, I don't see.
And a lot of sellers kicked off of Amazon go to Walmart,
Right.
show up there, which kind of tells you
Yeah,
a lot.
Now, I think we would all be better off if there was like 4 duking it out at the top. Right? That I'm all for that. And you'll know because we'll slightly tweak the name of this meetup community
Yeah.
to be called the Amazon and blank, you know what I mean? So, but as of right now, there's not even a close second. Wow. Thank God it wasn't my wife with her crazy ringtone. I would have been bad.
I have a question for you, actually.
Sure.
Don't you think at this point, with how good your A+ content has to be and everything video, you have to be like an expert in your product? You can't just do the keyword search, like, hey, what's a good product opportunity now? Don't you think you have to
I think you're right.
have the
I think you're
personal,
right.
like, for storytelling,
Yep.
for the videos, for the A+ content, and then on top of that, to offline marketing with like Instagram, and like, you can't really, I guess you could just pay people to do everything for you who can afford that. You could hire like a film crew and say, this is the product, I don't know much about it, go make a bunch of quality videos. That would be expensive, for one thing. Secondly, how are you gonna know they did great videos that'll resonate with an audience like Amazon?
Yeah, I think
Right?
you do. I think you do need to be. I think it would be smart. Okay, so I think you have private label sellers and brand owners, and I think you want to be a brand owner. And I think a lot of people are private label sellers, mostly because they're just let's do the bare minimum to get by type of people.
Like,
And
let's find a hot product. Do you know that much about it? Maybe not.
Yeah, but you know what? Such and such software said there's an opportunity here, and as long as I'm willing to gain X amount of
Yeah,
reviews and
which
do
could
this,
be
then I'm
true.
good.
Which could be true. I just think we're going in a direction of.
Yes, it just seems like that's the
Yeah.
person that does the bare minimum on their A+, that does the bare minimum of their packaging, that does all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that is, my opinion, I think that is a dying breed on Amazon.
Short term.
Yeah, I don't think a year and a half from now, that person will be doing this full time. This will exist for them.
Who won't exist? What are you talking about?
The person that
The
goes in
person
is
who's
that,
just
the
like-
private labels, yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
that. The private label seller, I don't think, the private label seller right now doesn't exist in a year and a half. 2 years, year and a half to 2 years, I don't think the private label seller exists. Unless you're selling $150 to $250 item that maybe is reverse engineered from oversized and somehow a food. You know, unless it's that, I feel comfortable saying in a year and a half, 2 years, you don't. Not you, but that person doesn't exist. It's just the way, if you're that person, you also are not doing any social selling. You're also not doing any email marketing. You're not building a community. You are 100% a slave to Amazon PPC costs. And that is a recipe for bankruptcy, really.
And
Like-
competition in every category is so stacked at this point
Yeah.
that you would have to be like an industry leader just in your marketing and your A+ content and the quality of your videos. I mean, what's the direction it's all going?
Yeah.
TikTok Shop has changed a lot of things, but whether it's TikTok Shop or Instagram or YouTube or wherever, you're gonna have to be a master at this stuff to compete with all the other people selling something similar, unless you've got something so unique.
I think that data alone does not make product market fit.
Right.
If you really want to make sure that you hit it, you need to be able to understand what it is that people want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you could use the best softwares out there. I'm partial to like a Jungle Scout Data Dive combo, but you could use all of them out there, and you could try to surface all the keywords you think are important, and then you can go, I'll use bonsai for an example, or like you could go decide you're gonna get into bonsai, and 2 days into some random bonsai meetup, learn like, why are they calling it that? And it's some random terms you've never heard of before, but because you're actually involved in doing it and immersing yourself and becoming an expert in it, you realize, oh my God, this is completely unrelated. And you discover more things. You discover different combinations that work. That would be my take on it.
Or just different things to put in videos.
Sure.
Like there's the data you can generate on like user videos, demonstration videos. There's the data you can generate on what works and what doesn't.
And
Just with software.
Yeah, and it could be something simple,
yeah.
like at one point, as the transition was happening from desktop to mobile, everyone was still saying on mobile, they were saying click that instead of tap. because you're on the phone. It was something minor, but it made a huge difference in what was there. And that's going to come across in copy. That's going to come across in video. That's going to do all that. But that's what I think. I love that question. Thank you.
Happy to be of service.
Absolutely. Number 4, and this one's going to be like, I wrote this down, and I was like, man, I'm going to get killed in the group, because for the last 10 and a half years, I've told everybody here. I've told everybody here, I've had one thing that's never changed in 10 and a half years, and it's do not sell this product, right? That I'm about to say. And I don't even want to just say the word by itself, so I put niche in front of it because it's important, but I'm going to say niche supplements. In 2025, and I really, really want to clarify some stuff here. I don't think you should get out there and sell vitamin C serum. I don't think you should do
Fat loss.
fat loss. I don't think you should do anything like that. But I'm seeing way too many examples of somebody getting what I put here as let's call it a supplement or an ingredient that is a very obvious one, like creatine, and matching it with something that it's not normally a customer, but it's complementary or something else that you normally don't consume it in this case, gummies. So you see Mr. Beast, everyone's known about creatine, and I would have told you a million times you shouldn't have done, don't launch a creatine product. But then gummies also has, ashwagandha gummies, vitamin C gummies, like all this different thing. But creatine gummies didn't exist. And somebody, Mr. Beast's team, catches it. Some other people on TikTok catch it. And I catch it on some after them, obviously. I catch it, I think, on the cusp of too late, right? But you match the two things together. It's so obvious. Like, how did creatine gummies how is that not a thing? How did we not think of creatine gummies 2 years ago, right? So he came up with Beast Bites and a lot of other stuff. But I think exploring, because supplements at the end of the day, they're going to be made in the USA. They're consumables, they have a high subscription value to them, they have a high LTV. They fit a lot of the other categories. The only reason I tell people to avoid it, especially beginners, is it's brutal. It's you need strong ad budgets. It's a dirty game with your competitors, a lot of backstabbing. So I just try to caution everybody. I was like, hey, if you're gonna be able to pick your own path here and be product agnostic, pick something that is the lowest hanging fruit. But with the current state of things in 2025, I do think that it's worth exploring niche supplements, right? So I hate to walk that one back. I was gonna be stubborn and just not say it, but I'm trying to be as open with everybody as I can, even when it means I might be wrong on something. But please do not launch a vitamin C serum, right? Please do not. My wife's not gonna let me launch like random brands anymore, so you can come up to me, I'm not gonna steal your idea. If you want someone to bounce some ideas off of, and I'd love to tell you that it's a great one. I'm not just gonna shoot it down and take it, but like feel free to reach out and I'll tell you if I think that's a niche supplement or not. But you could throw a rock and hit a lab that makes supplements in the United States, especially Miami. So there's that. But I think you need to get an obvious ingredient and a medium that it exists in, whether liquid, powder, injectable, like whatever. Think of a medium that it's not normally in, or let that instead of a medium, make sure it's something else that's complementary. So if you're getting into something like creatine, maybe it's a creatine pre-workout. It's kind of in that family. Does that exist? Can somebody look that up? Creatine pre-workout. Can you check it out on your phone? Look up creatine pre-workout, and then maybe it's a creatine pre-workout gummy. But like, play there. All right, last one.
And then make a TikTok video about it.
Yes, and make a TikTok showing the
By the
before and
end of
after
that
of
day.
Ramon.
Yeah, that's already a thing.
Yeah.
It is? Really?
20K sales, 70K sales.
No, okay. All right. Last one I have on my list, and I'm not doing that bad in going over, thank you everybody for staying so far, is what I call PL wholesale hybrids. And I'm curious with Chris here, how bad he might rip me for this one, or what you think about it. But
I'm not sure I know what you.
so I'll break it down what it is here. There was a rule change with Amazon that I think has a lot of people freaked out about this. I wouldn't, you should not do this, and I would not. And I was saying this even before the rule change. don't do this unless you have permission from the brand. And what it is say you have permission from the brand for Pop Secret popcorn. So you could resell their popcorn, or you have a relationship with them, right? But you also have your own brand of like food grade gloves, right? And you would like to put the two together, right? And you get permission from the brand to be able to create this product together for people that don't want to get butter on their fingers when they're eating popcorn. So you come up with butter blocker or you know, always clean hands X brand to put them together. I think those are still working great. How do you think about that with, you know, Amazon came out with the rule?
The compatible with?
Compatible with?
They had to type, well, I mean.
Not basically being able to have Pop Secret in the
Oh,
title.
the bundles?
Having Pop Secret
The
in the
bundles
title.
policy, they had to, people were abusing that like crazy, so they had to have this full crackdown. That's because brands were complaining, like,
Right.
I don't know who these people are. They've got us in their images. They've created their own branded bundles with the product that involves our product.
Right, they would get Prime Water, and then they'd get a
Yeah.
little smiley face sticker, and they'd bundle it with a 12-pack of Prime
Yeah.
Water.
So that would, out of control until,
Right, but you could still contact the brand and match it with another product. I think that's a great way to start private label. It's a soft way to get in. It's gonna be much more affordable. From day one, you have some high search volume keywords that are appearing in your title. So that would be the other way.
but your product still has to be the most expensive
Right, your
part.
product still has to be the
bundle
most-
policy still has to be.
Right. Any questions on that? No. All right, that's what I had. We're gonna stay networking afterwards here and hanging out. Again, apologies for going over and starting a little late, but I really wanted to take advantage. I started a little late on my own, and I really wanted to take advantage of Chris being here in Miami. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody.
Don't apologize to me.
Us? Oh, you're welcome.
I got here late.
Yeah. I gotta give a shout out to Fernando in the future for manning the computer.
Do you want me to leave these somewhere?
You have extra cards.
I can leave you a few.
QR code works, but I noticed I threw your cards to work on that table. But I know some people have a tendency to like void that QR code. But I have to take a little card. So I'll put them here so when I sort everything out after. Or you can put them here now if you want. Any that are left up here.
Nice to, your name again?
No, I mean, I've seen you on my.
Yeah, do What do you sell?
For now.
All right. For now, very brave.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, completely.
So what's the advantage to say, is number one?
What do you use there?
I'm beginning to get close again.
Now, that's all coming back. I mean, that kind
Today?
realizing what I was talking in the mind.
Planning it all.
Bartending all night.
I talked to Rick that he had a pain here before he started to do a chemo. I sent him 2 links to DMD, everything.